Hello everyone, my name is Quality and welcome to the longest video I have made thus far. So if you haven't noticed, this channel was primarily focused on resource guide videos for the last half a year. That is because I decided to make a video of every single resource just in one video. Let's call this my lockdown project. Before I go into the video itself, I really want to talk about some other things. I just want to say thank you. You guys are just amazing. I really don't understand the last 2 months as well. I was like learning for final exams at uni, and I have also been watching this channel just explode in views. I do not know what is going on. I really can't thank you enough. This really means the world to me. Besides that, I also wanted to say I will expand this channel with another game I really love to play. DRG, or Deep Rock Galactic, is a mix between Warframe and Doom. It is extremely fun to play, plus it is still getting updated every quarter of a year. I'm right now working on some backlog of ideas I had, because there is a lot of them. Every single video, a guide by itself, is available on this channel by itself, standalone. This video will be divided into sections by specific resources, so just try to look for the resource you want. There will also be a comment in the comment section, and there will be timestamps in the description, so just try to look for that. Keep in mind, I'm also not all-knowing. There is some things I missed, there is some things I got wrong, there is a couple of things I got wrong. So be sure to point everything you see that is wrong out, because I'm just going to make a pinned comment and post it in there so everyone can see it. Sometimes, if there is something wrong, or if I wanted to add something, there will be a helpful mirage down here. Yeah, down here. Don't farm in excess. Grind will wait, for real. Don't try to burn yourself, because that is what stupid YouTubers do. I've checked every single mission and found out that something is off. Some resources on some planets just drop in lesser amounts than the same kind of resources on the other planets. We will start with how to get the star chart resources. There is 5 ways. First one is by destroying crates, second one is from bosses and mini-bosses, third way is normally endless missions, preferably survivals, fourth way is resources from rewards, and the last, 5th way, is resources from Steel Path endless missions. I have also made a little graph which we will go over in a minute. On the horizontal line there is 5 ways you can get the star chart resources we mentioned before, and on the vertical upshooting line there is the amount of resources you gain, the max amount, let's say. There will be no exact numbers though, because they vary so freaking much. And now the lines. The red line represents the solo players with normal Warframes, the blue one represents solo players with the looting Warframes, the yellow line represents people who play in squads with normal Warframes, and the black one represents players who play in squads with looting Warframes. We will go over the graph by how people play, so first we will start with solo players, then solo players with looting Warframes, multiplayer, and multiplayer with looting Warframes. So yeah, let's go. The best way to get a lot of resources by being a solo player is definitely destroying crates and killing bosses. This way you will get huge amount of resources. You will have to defend most of the time in endless missions, so just don't do that. Play captures and exterminates and sabotages or assassinations, those are the best. You need to check which planet has which resources first, so yeah, just go to the planet, look at the bottom right corner, and you will see the resources that planet has. It's easy. Normal endless missions are terrible for farming resources. You will get much less of them than by destroying crates. Plus, you will most of the time just need to defend, as I said before, and do nothing. Excavations, defending excavators, defense missions, they don't even have crates, so why would you do them? Survival missions, well, those are okay if you are going for crates as well, but you're not even going to kill enemies, so yeah, just don't do that. Next one is resources from rewards. Those shouldn't be your goal. For real, it's just terrible to go look for them. You should rather focus on rewards like relics, endo, mods and weapon parts because, yeah, it's much easier to get resources not from rewards. When I mentioned assassinations and mini-bosses, most of the time they drop rare resources like Neurodes, Orokin Cells and stuff like that, so yeah, if you see them, just kill them. Most of the time I recommend doing assassination missions for farming resources, because you definitely get at least one rare one. And the last, Steel Path, is definitely the best for solo players, even when not using looting Warframes. By just playing the game, you will get around 2 times more resources than by destroying crates, and 3 times more than playing normal survivals. However, Steel Path is hard. When looking at the players that play solo and have looting frames, it is obviously even better on all levels besides the rewards because Warframes don't have any influence on them. Depending on which looting Warframe you use, you will get more loot. We will check that in the future part, I think it is part 4 of this miniseries. But now let's go to the multiplayer and squad players. For squad players, resource gathering from crates and specific resource deposits is definitely a no-go. People, especially if playing public matches, will normally just zoom to the end of the mission and not open many crates. Same also goes for bosses. Mostly they'll just come, kill them, that's it. Just like solo players pretty much. Therefore, the best way for public players is normal survival missions. You may also do other endless missions, but only difference is, enemies don't primarily attack you in them, while in survivals, they do. It also stands that the bigger the squad, more enemies there are, up to 4 times, so you will get more and more loot, more players there are in a squad. This is no rocket science. Same also goes for assassination missions, people just zoom past them, and rewards, there is no need to even say anything about it, I think. It's the same as playing solo, just the same. Now we come to Steel Path survivals, the absolutely best way to farm star chart resources in a squad. By just killing enemies, you will automatically get 2 times more resources because of a fixed 100% resource drop booster. It is freaking nice, and it actually stacks with another booster you may bring to the table. I'm talking about the normal resource drop booster that you can buy at the market. While doing endless missions in a squad will get you more loot than playing solo missions, you will also get far more if playing squad missions with looting Warframes. The main gig with looting Warframes is that they stack, which means you will get up to 200 more loot by playing in a squad with 4 looting Warframes. Even normal squad survivals are as good or better than Steel Path survivals solo with looting Warframes. So yeah, just squad play is the key of stupendous amount of loot. Obviously, you may also get yourself a resource drop chance booster and a resource double booster, but you must know that the resource drop chance booster, the blue one, only affects enemies, and the resource double booster affects all the loot you pick up. Double drop chance booster also helps you and your whole squad, while the resource double booster only helps you. So yeah, it is just great to use the double chance booster. If playing in a squad, the double drop chance boosters don't stack. You just don't expect to get 4 times more loot, you will just get more, like 100% more, that's it. What I quickly want to talk about also is Smitakavats, probably the best thing that can happen to you in Warframe. It has a charm mod, which is basically a double resource booster. It has a low chance of appearing, but yeah, it is great. For example, this is me, a picture of me farming toroids and getting extremely lucky by double resource boost from my Kavat 5 times in a row, plus having a normal resource booster. I just got 64 toroids from 1 toroid. Every planet has 4 or more resources, which you can see in the bottom right corner while looking at the planet. The resources you will find mostly come from crates and specific resource deposits. It doesn't matter where you farm them though, as long as the resource is set to be on that specific planet. You may also get after assassination targets for the rare resources. If you want to farm the resources from the enemies, you need to first unlock Steel Path, the endgame of Warframe. It is definitely the best way for all players, even solo ones, to farm resources there because of the abnormal enemy counts and better loot drop chances. Again, this way your main loot source are the enemies. Normal endless missions are just not good. Okay, now let's see how to get yourself the resources from the crates, your primary way of getting resources for quite some time. When you come into a mission, the resources will be displayed on the minimap like little white boxes. You will need to see as many of them as possible on your minimap, and to do that there's a few mods. Thieves' Wit, Loot Detector, and Animal Instinct. These 3 mods increase your vision of resources on the map, so this is really nice to have. The second set of mods focuses on vacuuming the resources on the ground from further away, so you don't have to go right over them, you will just suck them in. It will save you a lot of time and nerves, for real. There is 2 mods, one for companions and one for sentinels. The sentinel one is called Vacuum and the companion one is called Fetch. For real, I never play without these mods on my compadres because it is extremely useful to have them. It is very important to know though that if your companion or sentinel dies, the loot vacuum will stop working, so yeah, mod them as good as possible. You may also use a mod called Scavenge for your companions, which has a 90% chance to open lockers. Not the best mod because you need to wait for your companions, but it is still quite nice. Another mod for exclusively Carrier and Carrier Prime called Looter will destroy crates in 12-meter radius. You may get this mod from Simaris, but for real, it is not worth it. Those are actually all the mods that improve your resource visibility and gathering, so now we will go over the few gimmicky mechanics which are not the best since they require a bit of work, but mostly pay off, especially if looking for a specific resource. First one is the Sentinels. There is a mod called Spare Parts which has a 45% drop chance the Sentinel will drop one rare resource upon death. You may also combine this mod with the Regen or even Regen Prime mod, which will give your companion more chances to die and give you resources on a bit larger scale. Another mod you can also add is the Sacrifice mod. This mod is quite nice because the enemies most of the time attack you and not your Sentinel, so you just get downed and the Sentinel will sacrifice for you and get destroyed, so yeah, you get the loot. For real, this is a great way to farm specific resources that have no deposit of their own. I'm looking at Tellurium, but yeah, just die, get revived by your Sentinel so it dies, and that's it. Let me show you. By just standing around and enemies shooting at me, I get downed, and thanks to the Sacrifice mod, the companion will revive me, get destroyed, and appear again thanks to the Regen mod. This way is quite boring to do, sure, but you do need Tellurium somehow, and this is a low effort, easy grind. Most of the time you should really use this technique for the rarer resources only because it is so boring for real. But yeah, let's continue now to a build I have for Warframe Xaku, the crate breaking build. Revolving around crate breaking, great for farming Ayatan stars, Ayatan sculptures, syndicate medallions, and also resources. First we will go over what it needs to be optimal, and then we'll look at how to use it, so let's go. This is a very expensive build. What you need is Xaku with as much range and efficiency plus loot radar as possible. This is the main essence of the build, so you can go farming, but if you want to be the crate opening god, you can also invest into subsuming Mag for her pull ability and getting it on Xaku's any slot besides the 4th one. If you do get yourselves the pull ability, it is very important to also get yourself the greedy pull augment mod, which is actually the reason we want pull in the first place. Besides that, investing your focus points into Zenuric's energized dash is very nice since you will need lots of energy to keep going. I know this is only a few sentences of the build, but for real, on here there is months of farming everything you need for this build. Let's just go and see it in action. As soon as you get into the mission, you can go around and find a group of crates far away. As soon as you do, use the 4th ability. This will destroy all the crates, then use your pull to suck up the resources. Note though, the pull does work, but you need to be centered towards the resources, like the same way, and the height. If the resource does not move, it might be an Ayatan sculpture, syndicate medallion, rare cache, or something like that, but that is the actual purpose of the build. That's it. You will get your star chart resources in 2 main ways. One is normal endless missions, preferably survivals, and the other steel path endless missions. Let's first start with the normal ones. I myself suggest you to do survival missions because opposite of other missions, the enemies come straight for you, and not the excavators and cryopods, for example. You obviously should also destroy containers in survival missions as well, and not just kill enemies. Remember, containers are the best way to get loot, but in multiplayer missions, most of the time you will be doing something else as well, like defending stuff and killing enemies and more or less that. Normal capture and exterminate missions are not that good for farming star shard resources. Why? Because most of the people just do the objective and zoom to the end, so yeah, if you're in a public squad, don't count on people waiting for you. Same also works for rewards and assassination missions. Squad play is just too fast paced to loot around. The rewards should be only a bonus. Now let's look at the mechanics of enemy spawning. This is extremely important. So, in front of you there is a map with 2 large rooms and 8 middle-sized rooms. They are connected between each other with hallways which are not that important, but we will go over the importance of it. Now there is the blue dots, those are the players marked from 1 to 4. And there is also the red dots, which are the enemy spawn locations. If there is 2 players in every large room, the enemies will spawn in the middle-sized rooms. However, if there is a player in one of the middle-sized rooms, the enemies will not spawn in that section. This means the enemies will just come from further away and you will have to wait for them. The same way also works if a player is standing near the doors, it will just prevent the enemies to spawn. I know it is hard to understand, but I just want to tell you that if players are cuddled together in one big room, the enemies will spawn at neighboring rooms. If the room players are in is not that big, the enemies will spawn not in the neighboring room, but in a room next to that. So yeah, try to stay in big rooms and not in small ones. That is actually it what you need to know. This is very important, especially in survival missions where you need life support dropped from the enemies. The exact same principle works for the steel path as well. Stay as closely together and destroy enemies. If you don't, the spawn locations may get so messed up that you will just fail the mission easily. Besides that, there is not much else to say about spawning locations. Stay in big rooms away from doors and you'll be fine. The next thing we will focus on is resource gathering. There is a few mods that will boost it. First, there is the mods that let you see the resources on the minimap. They will be shown like white boxes, so they are easily spotted. About the mods, there is 3 to be exact: Thieves' Wit and Loot Detector for your Warframe, and Animal Instinct for your Sentinels or Companions. There is also vacuuming mods, there is 2 of them. These will just suck the resources into you from further away, so you don't have to go right over them. First mod is called Vacuum and is for Sentinels, and the second one is called Fetch for your Companions. Right now, when we're at this, I suggest you not to take Sentinels to endless missions, because they will just die. They're easily dead and don't have a lot of health, so no point taking them really. There is 4 classes of the loot frames, sorted by the type of enemy they get the loot from. Most of the loot frames also need an augment mod, which you can get from 6 syndicates of Warframe, so I will tell you which augment mod that is. Now we will look at every loot frame one by one, how they work and how to get additional loot. There is 4 sources of loot by playing different classes: corpses, killing enemies, alive enemies, and petrified enemies. First, let's look at the Warframe that gets you more loot from corpses on the ground: Necros. This one is probably the easiest to use. The only thing you need to do is mod it for as much range as possible, plus a lot of health. Necros' third ability, called Desecrate, will recycle the corpses on the ground into loot with a 54% extra loot drop chance. You might first think that this is only a 54% better drop chance than usual, but that is not exactly true. If you use weapons that do more slash damage compared to the other status effects, there is a chance the enemies you kill will be slit in more parts. Every single part will be desecrated on their own, so yeah, a lot more loot. Also, the augment you will definitely need for Necros is called Despoil. The normal Desecrate ability will use energy to recycle the corpses, but the augment mod will use health instead, which you can easily replenish since the Desecrate ability itself will give you health. You can get this augment from the Red Will or the Parent sequence, but yeah, that is it about the first class. Now let's go to the second class of Warframes, more loot from killed enemies. The first one is Cora. If you choose her, you also need to get yourself the Pilfering Strangledome augment, which you can get from Red Whale or Steel Meridian. This augment will make Cora's 4th ability a hanging loot farm. Let me explain. By going into a mission and casting the 4th ability, the Strangledome, you will make a little dome around you with the enemies hanging in it. By killing the enemies, you will get 65% more loot. That is actually not that bad. The second loot frame that gets more resources by killing foes is Hydroid, our Davy Jones lad, which also has a Kraken. For him you will need the Pilfering Swarm augment from either Cephalon Suda or New Loka. This augment will make Hydroid's 4th ability, the Tentacle Swarm, our Kraken, drop more loot from the enemies that are killed while being held by the tentacles. For real, what you need to do is just release the Kraken and kill everything that is entangled. It's not that hard. The last on the killing enemies for loot list is Wukong. For this one you don't need any augments, you just need to try to die. When Wukong almost dies, he will not die but will get 3 buffs, one of those buffs called Monkey Luck, which will give you twice the amount of loot for 60 seconds. For real, this is a terrible way to go though, so just don't try to farm with Wukong. Now we're done with the Warframes that get you more loot by killing enemies. So now we're going to go over the Warframe that loots the enemies while they are still alive. Ivara. For real, this one is extremely easy, you don't even need any augments for her. The key is to use the 3rd ability called Prowl. This ability will make you invisible and slow. You will not be able to sprint with this ability, but you will still be able to roll around, so yeah, just do that. For extra loot, 100% more actually, you just need to get close to the enemy and stay there for a second. That is it. That's it about Ivara. Now let's go to the last Warframe that petrifies enemies, Atlas. His augment mod called Orgaze, which you can get from Red Whale or Steel Meridian, gives his 3rd ability a buff, with scanning and also 25% more loot, which is just awesome. Just come to the enemy, use the 3rd ability, and destroy it. And that is actually it. But now, the real farming comes in. If you are playing in a squad and take one Warframe from each class, you may get a squad with loot overload because the looting Warframe abilities stack. So for example, 1 Necros from corpses, 1 Ivara from kills, and 1 Atlas from petrified enemies, and also obviously Ivara for the alive enemies. It is extremely useful to play smart like this. The only bad thing is that if you have for example 2 Necroses in a squad, they won't stack. They just won't stack. So yeah, use different classes of loot frames. That is actually it. I hope this video helped you at least a little bit to see the loot frames, how they work and stuff like that. The best way to do is Steel Path and a full squad of loot frames. You will get so much loot, you won't have to farm anything from there for a very long time. There is 3 types of resources by rarity. Common, which you get in high amounts, uncommon, which you get in amounts of normally 1/5 of the common ones, and rare, which you will find only a few of in a mission, or none. Every single planet has 4 or more resources on them. The resources you can find are displayed in the bottom right corner when looking at the planet. Some of the resources don't actually show, but I will mention them just so you know. I mentioned before that some resources are less common on some planets. For example, Mercury and Neptune both have Ferrite in the resources, but you will get much more Ferrite at Mercury even though Neptune is a higher level planet. I have therefore made a little sheet for each resource which I will talk about. There will be the name of the resource on the top. Under there will be the endless mission and its location for squad players. Remember, if playing solo, it's up to you to decide where you farm, as long as the planet has those resources. I'll include the planets, the green ones being the best to farm at, the yellow ones not that good, and the red ones being straight bad for that specific resource if playing in a squad. I will also add an average number of resources I got from 3 20-minute solo survivals on every planet with no boosters, so expect 2 or maybe 3 times more loot than just solo play. Below the average number, there will also be other worthwhile resources you may get by farming the primary resource you want, with also some colors: green great for farming, yellow not so much, and red don't even try. On the right there will also be the deposit of the specific resource, but now let's go look at the resources one by one. The first resource on the list is Ferrite, a common resource. The best place to farm it are missions on Mercury node Apollodorus and in the Void node Ani, depending on what you need. Rubedo is an uncommon resource most common on Phobos node Zeugma, pretty much the best way to get it. You may also find it elsewhere, but for real, it is just not worth it. If you only need Rubedo, get there. Alloy plates are the resource most people who want a Kavad dread. The best place to farm it is definitely Ceres node Gabi, with almost 2 times more alloy plate drops than other planets. Polymer bundles are a painful farm, like really painful. The good thing about them is that by farming them at Uranus, node Ophelia, or Asur, you may also get Tellurium if playing submersible survivals. But yeah, that thing is rare. Circuits, they are an uncommon resource. The only way to farm a lot of them is Ceres node Gabi. For real, you will get 5 or even 6 times more of them than anywhere elsewhere. Salvage is the most common resource found on Jupiter node Sinai. For real, it is just easy to get. You will not have a lot of problems getting it all the time. If you need to farm Nano Spores, you're probably joking, but if you are serious, your best bet is Deimos node Tellurium. They are very common. Plastids are so uncommon, you will need to farm them constantly. Luckily, there is 2 good options. One is Ophelia Survival on Uranus. This way you may also get Tellurium, and the other way is Saturn node Piscinas. Detonite Ampules are a resource you will find on any Grineer-controlled planets, most common on Ceres node Gabi or Uranus node Ophelia. You can also get those in the plains of Eidolon, but for real, you will not need that many of them. Fieldron samples come from any Corpus-controlled planets. The best place to farm them is definitely Keloshin Survival on Neptune. You can also get these in the Orbalis. Mutagen samples are something people hate to farm, beyond hate even. You can find them only at 2 planets, one being completely useless. Best place to farm them is Deimos node Tellurium. You may also find them in the Cambion Rift, which is probably the best place actually. Morphics are a resource probably everyone thought was rare at first, but it just wasn't rare as other resources. The best place to get them is definitely Vahip Survival on Mars. Gallium is a resource that is, in my opinion, one of the prettiest looking, but I don't know why. The best place to farm it is definitely Vahip Survival on Mars or Ophelia Survival on Uranus. Neurodes are a resource that is just super rare. I recommend doing Zabala on Eris or Apollo Disruption on Lua. Next on the line are Orokin Cells, a very sought after resource because you need it for most of the prime weapons and Warframes. The best place to farm it is definitely Gabi Survival on Ceres. Neural sensors are resources you don't need that many of, but you still need them. The best place to get them is definitely Elara Survival on Jupiter or just normal capture missions. For real, just look for the deposits. Control modules are a joke. If you need them, go to some void mission like capture or anything pretty much and just destroy the crates. You can just do any survival in the void if you love doing survivals, but for real, they are not that rare, just do a few capture missions. Somatic fibers, they are not a rare resource because there is only one place to get it. Disruption mission Apollo on Lua. The somatic fibers may be dropped from the demo list, so yeah, just kill them and you will get a lot of them. Cryotic is a resource that you can get from any excavation mission, just play any of them. Hexenon is a resource only found on Jupiter at any node and it is extremely rare. I myself suggest you to do Disruption mission Ganymede on Jupiter because you will get the Hexenon as rewards as well. You have to remember that this is a rare resource that is dropping in amounts of 8 to 10 or something like that, so don't expect a lot of it. And now Oxium. Oxium doesn't have deposit of its own and is only found from two ways. First one is random loot crates. You can just farm them anywhere pretty much, but you will get such a low amount it is not worth it. The second way is by killing Oxium Ospreys and any kind of variation of it. It is extremely easy to kill them, just plop plop and they're dead. People most commonly play Corpus Defenses on Phobos, Jupiter and Pluto, but I really love to play Apollo Disruption on Lua. You get Oxium, you get Axi Relics, and you also get Somatic Fibers, plus Lua Lenses. Extremely nice. Argon Crystals are a resource that literally disappears from your storage every day by a half of their original amount. So, for example, if you have 10 on the first day, 5 on the second, then 2 on the third, because of how the system works, if you have an uneven number, it takes 1 more. On the 4th day you will have 1, and on the 5th day, 0. This system prevents you from farming everything up, which, you know, might be quite bad, but luckily you do not need many Argon Crystals at once. A total you will need is about 200, plus for some blueprints that are renewable and stuff like that. Argon Crystals are only found in the Void and in the ISO vaults of Deimos. The Void is far more reliable though, so if you are a starter, go there. Argon may drop from the enemies, or it might be found in the crates, or sometimes even Argon deposit. It is a rare resource, so farming it will be a nuisance comparable to Neurodes, for example. The easiest way I've found is just playing 3 nodes in particular: Teshub Exterminate, Hepit Capture, and Annie Survival. These are the easier variants of some harder nodes of the Void, but the drop rates are similar. I myself would suggest going for the harder ones if you can, just because of better affinity and better drop rates for other stuff like relics and mods. If you are playing solo and are looking for 1 to 4 Argon Crystals, I recommend you to do Teshub or Hepit. They're quick and easy to do. However, if you're doing them in a squad, especially a full one, survival is your best bet. My favorite way of doing it is to just destroy every crate and kill every enemy in the way. This way you will get not only Argon Crystals, but Ayatan Stars and even Ayatan Sculptures as well, plus a hefty amount of Ferrite and Rubedo, which you will need a lot of. If there is a fissure in the Void going on, especially Exterminate or Capture, doing that will give you Argon Crystals, Void Traces, and even Prime stuff. Most of the players tend to use destructive weapons and therefore destroy every crate and enemy. I think it is good to point out that resource boosters of both kind do work on Argon Crystals, but most of the time you'll just need 1 or maybe 2, a low amount altogether, so I don't really recommend wasting the boosters on Argon Crystals. Argon Crystals are actually just another rare resource in Warframe, used to make weapons, Warframes, lenses, and some kinds of formas. For real, it's kind of hard to give tips for this, just because there is no reliable way to get them consistently. It is all based on luck and luck alone. If you can go Still Path and mine loot there, whatever, but I doubt you actually need tips for that, so yeah. Tellurium, a resource you do not need a lot, but you still do need it. Farming this thing is a pain, not because it is rare, but because it is obtainable only in a couple of boring missions. Tellurium is used for a lot of weapons and warframes in little amounts, but if you want to craft cosmetic recipes, you will need a huge amount, so yeah, let's see how to get it. The first way is archering, flying around and killing enemies, that is literally it. Which is just not satisfying if you can't kill them in a few hits, and also the drop chance is abysmal. So yeah, I recommend you to not play archering to farm Tellurium. What you want to play are normal ground missions. Any mission that has this symbol, the archwing, besides it, is good to farm Tellurium at. but my favorite is Ophelia Survival on Uranus or Node Tamu at the Kuva Fortress. When me and my friend were farming it, we got only 2 in 10 minutes, which is not that much, but it is still okay, I guess. We also weren't using any double resource boosters or double drop chance boosters or anything like that, so yeah, a normal game with normal Warframes. Tellurium also doesn't have its own deposit, and as far as I know, it does not drop from crates. The only source are the enemies, so the tactic here is only kill. Getting in a full squad is suggested, so you will get more enemies as well. A drop of Tellurium looks like a green Fieldron Sample or Detonite Ampule, which is quite easy to spot actually. Detonite injectors, Fieldron, and also Mutagen mass. Resources you will need a lot of for all sorts of things, mainly for weapons you get from dojo. There is only 4 ways to get them, 1 reliable, 1 gambly, 1 is pricey, and the other one is for those who have only a few brain cells left. Let's first go over the reliable one, the invasions. Invasions are missions that come up through the system by major wars between Grineer and Corpus, with some sprinkles of infestation in invasions called outbreaks. You can access them by going to the star chart and then looking for the circle-y symbol, which are invasions. By clicking on one of them, you will be sent to a planet the invasion is on, so the nodes that are in invasion status look like this. Most of the time they are a bit more higher level than they used to be on the planet, but for real they are not that hard, just try to do them in a squad if you can't do it yourself. When you choose the node you want to do, you will have to support one of the sides 3 times, which means doing the same mission 3 times, and if you do a mission on the other side, it will count as -1 for the one you went before, so don't do that, just for the one side. When you complete the mission 3 times, you will have to wait. The invasion is a community event, which means a lot of players need to do them before the rewards are distributed. When the event is done, you will get a message from whoever you helped with the resources you fought for. You have to note though, if you help the same faction 5 times in a row on multiple nodes of the invasion, you will then be targeted by G3 or the Zanuka Hunter. This depends on who you help. If you help Corpus, you will be targeted by G3, and if you help Grineer 5 times, you will get targeted by the Zanuka Hunter. Also worth knowing is that when helping a faction fight against Infested, you will not be able to help Infestation, which is, you know, kind of logical. I hope this was coherent enough, but now let's go to the second way, Fortuna Bounties. Tier 4 of the Fortuna bounties have quite a high chance to drop to Fieldron, Detonite or Mutagen masses from the first 4 stages of the bounty, but not on the last one. This is not that reliable for sure, but it is definitely more fun than the invasions. There is also not much else to say here, so let's continue to the next one, the pricey one. Labs in the dojo have blueprints that you can buy for 15k credits. Blueprint of Fieldron in the Corpus lab, Detonite in the Grineer lab, and Mutagen mass in the Bio lab. They are not endless, so you will have to buy a lot of them. You also need some resources you might have a lot of, Fieldron samples, Detonite ampules, and also Mutagen samples, which are actually not that hard to get. Maybe only the Mutagen samples, which I recommend you to farm on Deimos, Cambion Drift, you will just get a lot of them. And now let's go over the last way, the rare crates from normal missions. The chances of rare crates are astronomically low, so don't even try to farm them. I myself only found a few in my 5 years of playing Warframe, so no, I can't even show it to you. They are that rare. Animo beacons are dropped from Ambula's Bursas, which you can find only on Pluto on the Snowy Corpus tile set. When playing pretty much any mission, you will need to watch out for the Corpus dropships, since Ambulous Bursas are transported by them. The Ambulous Bursas look like this. You cannot damage it as a normal Bursa, which is only damaged from behind. This one can actually be damaged by destroying its parts of body, like this. My tip for fighting these is to have radiation damage status on your weapons, since Ambulous Bursas are weak to it. So yeah, killing a Bursa is not that hard, you just need to first find it, then kill it, and we still don't know how to get the Animo beacons. Well, it's actually quite easy. As soon as you kill the Bursa, you can then hack it as a normal Bursa. A successful hack will give you 5 Animo beacons, which is not that much. Luckily though, you will not need that many. Double Resource Booster does not work with this too, so you are kind of screwed. My favorite mission is to do Mint Mobile Defense on Pluto, since you will get many bursts there. You can also do the Outer Terminus Defense, since Ambulas are likely to spawn at the end of every 5th round. Another thing that I want to mention before we continue is that Ambulus bursts will spawn after about 5 minutes since you encountered the last one. So if you encounter one at 2 minutes, you will get another one at, I guess, about 7 minutes. The Animo Beacons are used as a ticket to fight the Ambulus boss fight located on node Hades, Pluto. The boss fight is basically another defense, mobile defense kind of mission with some spins. You need to kill the Ambulus, then hack it, and then defend it from the Ospreys that try to repair it. After some time, it is picked up by Condor dropship and flown away. Complete this a couple of times and you will complete the mission. If you complete the mission successfully, you will get 10 Animo Beacons out of 20 back, and if you don't, you will lose all 20, so yeah, try to make it. You will need Kuva mostly for ribbon rolling if you do not like the stats that are on it. Besides that, you also need some for crafting recipes such as Warframes, weapons and cosmetics, but other than that, it is useless, especially if you don't care about ribbons. As I said, let's first look at the more reliable ways. These ways will require you to do 2 quests, Second Dream and the War Within, and that is pretty much it. So yeah, let's start with the first one, Kuva Siphons and Kuva Floods. They're normally found in the Alerts tab. They also appear on 2 planets at the same time that are closest to the Kuva Fortress on the star chart. Kuva Siphons are normal missions with a little mini event inside them. At some point by walking around the map you will come along a Kuva Siphon. This siphon needs to be destroyed, but not with normal weaponry. What you need to do is go into your operator form and look at the siphon's braids. They will at some point start siphoning Kuva into them. The Kuva looks like red mist that will fly around the siphon. Here your operator form is key. You need to either avoid blast, melee with the operator, the Kuva cloud, or you can dash through it. This will destroy one of the braids, so you need to complete this 3 more times, so 4 in total. When you destroy the siphon, you will get 600 Kuva if in a normal Kuva siphon mission, and 1200 if in a Kuva flood. The amount of Kuva will be doubled if you have the resource double booster. The second way of getting tons of Kuva is Kuva Survival Node Tiveuni on Kuva Fortress. This mission is like a normal survival with some spins. At some point there will be an enemy that spawns in and is marked. The marked enemy will drop a Kuva capsule. Picking up the capsule and going near the live support unit will convert it into a Kuva harvester. You need to defend the Kuva harvester for some time, and after you're done, it will give you 200 Kuva. This is also doubled if you have a double resource booster on to 400 per completed Kuva harvester. The third way is also quite reliable, but I would not recommend it to you if you are not playing in a highly organized squad. Disruption mission Tamu at Kuva Fortress will reward you Kuva from 2 things. One of them is killing demolishers, which will give you 50 per kill, doubled if you have the double resource booster, and the other way is from the actual rotations of Disruption, 100 for A rotation, 200 for B, and 350 for C. You need to know though that these values are not doubled with the double resource booster. The fourth way is Kuva from Nightwave, either from the rewards by progressing through tiers or by buying it from Nightwave offerings for 50 Nightwave credits. I myself do not suggest buying the Kuva with credits though. There is much better ways to waste the Nightwave credits by far, so yeah, don't do that. The fifth way of acquiring Kuva is by arbitrations. The vendor at Arbiters of Hexes will sell you 10,000 Kuva or 25 Vitus Essence. This is actually not a bad investment if you ask me, if you do not care about the Argon ribbons and other stuff Arbiters offers, so yeah, just buy the Kuva, you don't really need anything else. The sixth way is again by buying Kuva from Teshin, which is probably one of the best ways there is. You are able to buy 10,000 Kuva from Teshin's Steel Path offerings by farming up 15 Steel Essence. This is extremely easy to do. A double resource booster plus a 20-minute survival, for example, equals to about 16 Steel Essence. 10,000 in 20 minutes. it is insane. Also, you can do daily alerts for a steel path, I think they're called incursions or something, I don't even care really, which give you 3 steel essence automatically by completing them, is a good investment. However, I would rather save the steel essence for either Endo or Umbra Forma. The 7th way is by killing a Kuva larvaling that can spawn in any Grenier mission above level 20, but I suggest you not to kill him. Killing him will transform it into a Kuva Lich, which will steal your resources and hold back your progress, especially if you're a newer player. If you decide to kill it though, depending on the rank of the Kuva Lich when you try to kill it but fail, will give you Kuva from 150 to 300 depending on its rank. This however is definitely not a sustainable source of acquiring it. That is actually it for the reliable ways of getting Kuva. Now we will take a look at some other unreliable ways where Kuva should be again your byproduct of farming and definitely not a priority. The first way is bounties on Plains of Eidolon. Tier 4, Tier 5 and Tier 6 bounties have a chance of dropping Kuva. Tier 4 may drop 100 and Tier 5 and 6 300. The drop chances are very low though, so doing them for Kuva is just insane. Same also goes for the Orvalis bounties. Tier 4 will give you 200 while Tier 5 and 6 will give you 500 per bounty, again with no go levels of drop chance. Second to last way is by opening Requiem relics. You might get 1200 Kuva from them, but if there is a Weapon Exodus adapter or even a Requiem mod between the drops, pick it. They are much better than the Kuva you will get. And now the last way, Sortie. It is a drop from Sorties. Obviously, most of the time you will get either Rivens or Anasa Ayatan sculptures, so again, completely unreliable. There is only 2 kinds of Ayatan stars, Cyan and Amber varieties, with Cyan one being much commoner. Ayatan stars have a chance to be dropped from any loot container, so this is your primary way to get them pretty much everywhere. This is how I got majority of my supply, just by playing random missions and not actually farming the stars. When the Ayatan stars do drop, they will be marked, you just need to get to them and pick them up with your interaction button. People also like to use builds specifically for opening loot containers, but they are very expensive. If you want such build, this is mine for Xaku in the upper right corner right now, so go look for it. But I warn you, it is very freaking boring after the first few missions. But that is it for the first way. Let's now go to the second way, the Plains of Eidolon. If you like being on the Plains of Eidolon, you can try killing quackas, small and disturbing looking mice that spawn all around the place. The drop chance of Ayatan stars is not that great, but it is definitely better than nothing, so if you see them and can't catch them, just kill them, they are not going extinct. I myself love to fly around the coastal area of the map and trank animals that are there, so I know there's a lot of quackas there as well. In 20 minutes of farming I got exactly this amount of Ayatan stars, so yeah, not a big one. That is it for the Ayatan stars that drop from crates and quackas, so now let's go to the next section of the video, all about the Amber Ayatan stars. The first way are the Deimos bounties. The tier 3 endless bounty on Deimos is extremely good for farming Endo and Ayatan stars. You can do this one infinitely and get loads of Ayatan Amber stars. Plus some good mods as well. I myself got this amount of Amber stars in 1 hour of farming, which is not the best, but god damn it, it is so freaking good. And now the second way for the Amber stars, the last way, the Requiem fissures. I at first didn't even want to talk about this one, but there is a chance to get Amber Ayatan stars from the opened relics. I myself though would go for everything else that is not Amber stars, so yeah. If there's Kuva, I would take that. If there's a Requiem mod, that is probably the best pick there is. So yeah, just do it if you really need it. Ayatan sculptures, the best source of Endo for starters and veterans alike. If you for some reason don't know what to do with the Ayatan sculptures, you may fill them with Ayatan stars at the mod station. There should be an icon in the upper right corner. You need to fill them up and then go to Maru's Bazaar at Mars and ask Maru to extract Endo from them. This way you will get a lot of Endo. There is 10 Ayatan sculptures in total, varying in amount of Endo they give when filled with Ayatan stars. If you are not sure how to get Ayatan stars, there is a video in the upper right corner right now, but now let's continue on how to get sculptures. First, let's look at the weekly Ayatan hunt. You may find it in the alert section on the star chart. The mission is always the same, going into an Orokin vault and finding an Ayatan sculpture. It is marked, so getting it should not be a problem. The second way to get Ayatan sculptures is arbitrations. This is absolutely the best way to get massive amounts of endo. If you don't know what they are, again, there is a link in the upper right corner, but to keep it quick, by unlocking all the nodes on the star chart, the blue flashing ones, turning them into the white ones, you unlock arbitrations, which you can find in the same place as the weekly Ayatan hunt, the alerts. Arbitrations are endless missions in which you have only one life if playing solo and multiple if playing in a squad, but reviving is much harder. Besides that, they work the same way as any other mission, just with different rewards consisting of endo. This is the best way to get endo for real. You may also use Vitus Essence, a resource dropped from the arbitrations, to buy the arbitration exclusive Zambuca Ayatan sculpture, which should be more of a flex item and shouldn't be used for endo or something like that. For real, keep the Vitus Essence and waste it on Rivens or Kuva. The third way to get Ayatan sculptures is from normal missions. You may find them anywhere on the map, but chance of them spawning is only 10%, so chances of finding them is very low, of course, if you are not hunting them. What you need to do is try to destroy every single crate, since Ayatan sculptures can be seen on the map as one. I myself suggest you to try and look for them in the Syndicate missions while looking for the medallions. There is even a specific build people love to use to hunt Ayatan sculptures in normal missions for Warframe Xaku, the crate breaking build. This build is very expensive and doing arbitrations should be a go-to at this point for Ayatan sculptures, but some people just want to do it this way, so yeah. By this point I also should mention that Oestros on Iris is probably the best place to get the Ayatan sculptures in normal missions. The area is very small and you can just go out and there's no consequences. So yeah, it is pretty good. But that is really it what I wanted to talk about for the third way, so let's go to the fourth one. You may get one Ayatan sculpture for 50k standing with the Necroloid Syndicate, which is quite a good investment if you ask me. If you like to destroy necromechs, a major turnoff for many people. But now let's go to the last way of getting Ayatan sculptures, sorties. With it you may get sortie exclusive Anasa sculptures, which are quite nice to look at actually. They're also quite easy to get, so it is quite good. Arbitrations are supposed to be the endgame content of Warframe, which you can do after you have unlocked every single node on the normal star chart. So yeah, you don't have to play the railjack at all, which is nice. When you do that, you will be able to do the arbitrations, which you can access under alerts on the upper right corner while on the star chart, just like I'm showing right now. The alerts change every hour and they're always endless, which means they are going to be defenses, excavations, defections, survivals, and so on. Every alert also has a 300% strength for random weapon and random Warframe, which is a buff that makes it very easy to do if playing with that Warframe, but it's not always good. The main catch of arbitrations is that they are harder than the normal missions in two ways. Firstly, you only have one life if playing solo, and if playing in a squad, you have to kill special arbitration drones who drop special tokens that make people who are trying to revive you vulnerable to damage, which you know it's not that good. After any person has enough tokens, they can revive you, which is quite nice, but if you die again, you have to do the same process again and again, and it's very hard, especially if you're not in a good squad. And the second way the arbitrations are harder is that every single mission, in some way, is more complicated. For example, excavations take much longer to excavate an artifact, survivals are much harder to survive because you get less air support, and defense has only 2-second pause before another wave comes, which you know, it's kind of hard. Besides that, the arbitrations are not that bad actually. The only thing you need to do is get a powerful weapon and a powerful Warframe, which is Inaros and anything like Kuva Brahma or something like that. That's what I'm using. The main reasons for doing arbitrations is actually farming endo, because you get a lot of it, much more than farming the Ayatan sculptures, but besides that you also get something called Vitus Essence. You can use that to buy nice mods and cosmetics from Arbiters of Hexes vendor on any relay besides Maru's Bazaar and the Scarlet Spear relay. Nitain Extract, a resource you need quite a lot of, about 200 plus if you want to build everything that contains it. There is only a few ways to get it, so let's get right to them. Let's first start with the most reliable and least grindy way, Nightwave. So if you don't know what Nightwave is, it is basically an event in Warframe that lasts for months. You can access it by pressing the escape button and going to the bottom right corner. This might be a bit overwhelming at first, but it is really not that complicated. There are missions on the bottom which are of three kinds: daily, weekly and elite weekly. Daily missions change every day and weekly ones every week. And on the top there are the rewards which you will get for every 10,000 standing you get. But now let's go to the Nitain Extract. Between the rewards of Nightwave there is something called Nightwave credits. They might look a little bit different in the future, but they will still work the same. When you have them, you can go down to the Nightwave offerings in the bottom right corner and look for Nitain Extract. You will be able to exchange 5 Nitain Extract for 15 Nightwave credits, which is very good. The only sad part is, there is many things you want from the shop, so don't waste all of your Nightwave credits on Nitain. Now let's go to the second way to get Nitain Extract, the Ghoul Purge Bounties, an event going on the plains of Eidolon from time to time. Nitain Extract is a reward you can get from the last few stages of the bounty with a drop chance of 4 or 6% depending on the level, but for real, this is a no-go, just don't do this. The third way to get Nitain Extract is a potential drop from assassination target Zealoid Prelate, with about 2.5% drop chance, so you need to kill at least 40 of them to get one. And the fourth way, Nitain Extract from rare resource caches in sabotage missions. They look like normal ones but are white and emit sound. The Grenier ones look like this and the Corpus one look like this. By collecting all 3 caches you will be able to get 1 Nitain Extract. If you're extremely lucky, it has only 0.5% drop chance. So yeah, that is pretty much it. If you want Nitain Extract, Nightwave is the only way to go, for real. Every other way is beyond unreliable. Void Traces, resources only used for 2 things. The first thing is relics, to make them drop less common resources more often, and the second way is to get yourself Void Keys, to get yourself in the Orokin Vaults found on Deimos. Those are actually the only 2 uses, but yeah, you will need a lot of them for relic refinement. When it comes to farming these, there is only 4 ways. First way is the only real reliable one, Void Fissures. When you are opening relics and collecting all the reactant, you will get from 6 to 30 Void Traces. What I suggest you is to play capture and exterminate missions that are not in Void Storms. For real, just try to farm prime parts and get resources as a byproduct. Also, you will get a lot of ducats this way, which you will definitely need. The second way is Void Storms. For real, this is just a terrible idea. There is some important drops you can get from Void Storms, but they are so long that they are just not worth it. Go play Void Storms only if you are in need of Endo or if you're farming specific parts. For example, on Neptune Void Storms there is the Nautilus Sentinel, which is pretty good for Railjack. And I think it's on Pluto where you can find the Carmine Penta. But yeah, I'm not sure. Why would you even use that thing? It's garbage. If you wish to see more of this rare stuff, just go to the Warframe wiki and do some research. For real, it is not that hard. But yeah, let's continue now. In Void Storms and Void Fissures, there is a few ways to improve your Void Traces gains. Using a resource double booster is one of them. It will double the amount of the Void Fissures you get. You may also use Smita Kavat's Charm ability to double the amount of Void Traces you get. If you're using the double resource booster and the Kavat's Charm ability, you may get up to 100 or more Void Traces per relic, but only if both are active. So yeah, this is a lottery. The next, third way is the crates you can find in the Cambion Drifts, Isolation Vault Bounty's second objective. I have already made a video about this, so I suggest you to go watch it, but for real, farming Void Traces this way is just not efficient. And now the last way, the Granum Void. Granum Void, which gives you the first impressions of being very hard, but it just isn't, even with mediocre mods. First, we'll take a look at the rewards, so you at least see what you're getting into. There is 3 different tiers, with every tier giving you 3 rewards at the end. The Granum Void is a small arena that you can enter through the Golden Hand of Corpus warships. There is a few requirements you need to do before you can enter them. First one is the Deadlock Protocol, a quest that introduces a new old head of Corpus. During the quest you will get a weapon called Zoris, which is the key of success in the Granum Void. After you complete the quest, you will be able to enter the Golden Hand with so-called Granum Crowns, which are actually quite easy to get, but getting them will take you quite a long time. You can get the Granum Crowns by killing the treasurer that spawns in Corpus warships around the 5-minute mark. He'll try to run away and throw down traps and stuff, but for real, killing him is not that hard. When he is dead, he will drop one of 3 kinds of Granum Crowns depending on the planet you are on. Normal Granum Crowns are obtainable from Venus, Mars and Phobos, Example Granum Crowns are from Jupiter and Neptune, and the last Zenith Granum Crowns are obtainable from Neptune and Pluto. The Neptune ones depend on the levels. If they are above 30, you will get Zenith Granum Crowns. These crowns have 2 uses. One is entering the Granum Void via the Golden Hand, and the other one is, well, freeing Solaris people that are being kept on the ship, which gives you some standing for Solaris United, but I'd really save the crowns for the Golden Hand. Okay, we have the crowns now, but now let's go to the topic we began the video with, the rewards and what you need to do to get into each tier of Granum Void. The tier is determined by crowns, the normal one getting you to tier 1, the exemplar one getting you to tier 2, and Zenith one to tier 3. When you enter the Granum Void, there is one simple objective: kill specters with Zoris. You will see that Granum Void will be very hard at first, but when you get in, after countless amounts of dying and getting overwhelmed by specters, you will just do it. If you're going in for the first time, I suggest you a survivable Warframe and also a Zoris, which is mandatory. For the Zoris, here is my affordable build with mods I assume most of the people own. What you're looking for is as much attack speed and as much wind-up speed for heavy attacks, just because you will be throwing the Zoris a lot. Slap these mods on, they are not that rare, and go in. When you spawn into the Granum Void, you will see a timer and the amount of specters you need to kill on the left side of the screen. If playing solo, you will have to kill from 25 to 75 depending on the tier, but playing in a squad this number will be much higher. What you need to do is throw the Zoris at the specters, and when it is close to them, you need to press the middle mouse button, which will make it explode. If you now throw Zoris again at the specter particles, you will fill up the meter, which will glow orange when full in the middle of the screen. This means you can now throw the Zoris again and it will explode massively. Repeating this again and again will do the trick. If you're getting low on time, you can free the 3 Solaris captives that are marked on the map, which buy you 20 seconds each. You can free them by throwing a fully charged Zoris at them and exploding them, which is quite easy to do actually. And the other way to get more time is by picking up the little yellow pyramids floating around. For real, this is not hard at all if you ask me, but you do need to be agile and master the art of throwing, which will definitely be quite hard at the start, so yeah. Most of the time, people do 3 missions that are easy to do. These missions will give you the crowns you want, and you will also be able to get into the Granum Void with them, which is obviously the best thing you can do if you are farming it. These missions are Skyrush Capture on Phobos, if you need normal Granum Crowns, Adrastea Sabotage on Jupiter if you need Exemplar Granum Crowns, and the last, if you need Zenith Granum Crowns, Hydra Capture on Pluto. Endo is a currency, much like credits, but it is only used to upgrade mods at your mod segment in the Orbiter. By selecting one of the mods and then clicking Fusion, you may actually rank up the mods you have, making them better, but you will need a lot of Endo and also a lot of credits for it. But this is actually everything the Endo is used for, so now let's go to the ways of acquiring it. We will start with the fastest ways of getting Endo and then continue to the more gimmicky and not the best ways of getting it. But there will be other rewards that are good on the side. First, let's start with arbitrations, probably the easiest way to get Endo. Arbitrations are missions you can find under the alerts on the star chart. The missions are always endless with a very good amount of endo in them. The endo will most commonly come in form of Ayatan sculptures, which are actually quite nice to have. I have mentioned them before in one of my videos collecting Ayatan sculptures and also collecting Ayatan stars, so if you want to, you can look at them right now in the upper right corner, but to keep it very short, by filling the Ayatan sculptures with Ayatan stars, you may sell them to Maru at Maru's Bazaar. This way you will get a lot of endo. By playing the arbitrations, you will in half an hour statistically get 8,426.5 endo on average. So yeah, it's quite good. I think it is very important to point out that arbitrations are very good for solo players. Farming endo this way is insanely good. But if you're in an organized squad, you should do the second way. Rathum Arena at Vodianoi on Sedna. The enemies there, executioners, have an extremely high chance of dropping endo, so most of the time you will get around 800 if playing solo with no looting Warframes, so for real, soloing it is completely useless. Because of soloing is useless, people usually form highly organized squads of a few looting Warframes, normally consisting of 1 Korra, 1 Necros, 1 Evara, and 1 Atlas. These 4 Warframes all have augment mods that stack, so you may get up to 4 times more endo than normally. It is important to know that Nidus's larva is key to success of this tactic, so I suggest you to get the larva ability on one of your looting Warframes with Helminth. I myself hate to farm endo this way, but a video by No Sympathy is probably the best to explain this, so be sure to watch it and improve. We will continue now with the next way, Railjack. Every single container you find on Corpus Pillars, the big ships, Grineer asteroid bases, and galleons, or pretty much any little thing you can board, has at least 15 endo in it. This way you will, by just playing Railjack and destroying containers, get more than enough endo to upgrade at least the mods that don't need that much of it. And you also get great rewards by doing this. I myself love to play solo Void Storms because I find them fun and also try to get Forma blueprints this way. But this is just my little wasteful way of having fun. Besides that, you can also scrap the Railjack parts you don't want to craft at your scrap wreckages screen in your dry dock. For real, there's a lot of endo in those scraps, so just destroy them. While these 3 ways were actually quite good for farming endo, the 4th one is a little bit more gimmicky and you should focus more on the rewards for them. The tier 3 bounty in the Cambion Drift on Deimos is great for farming endo. It is endless and has a bit of a weirder system behind of it for its rewards, so I suggest you to go there for endo only if you also want Ayatan Amber stars and also some nice mods that are a little bit harder to get from enemies. The Plains of Eidolon also has its 5th bounty, which is the best for endo. This way you can also get Eidolon lenses and other good stuff, which you will definitely need in the future. So yeah, just do that if you don't want to do the Deimos bounties. And if you also don't want to do the Plains of Eidolon's bounties, then you can also try Orvala's bounties tier 5. This way you will get many familial depth bonds, which you may need to get some passive Fortuna standing. But that is it about the bounties. Let's now go to the 5th way, Steel Path. Playing any long, endless mission is great for your endo and also Steel Essence bank. Because Steel Path already has a 100% endo drop chance because of the mod drop chance, it is great for farming it, for real. Just do that and get Steel Essence also, which is amazing, for real. You may also get some endo from Teshin from his offerings, the Steel Path, but for real, it is just not reliable because it comes once every 8 weeks or something like that. It is just unreliable. Let's now go to the 6th way, the Synthesis captures for Semaris. You will get endo after doing the captures and getting back to Semaris. I will not really go much deeper into this synthesis scanning in this video because I will make a video on this in the future, but to keep it short, the reward of endo is not the best, but you can get Semaris standing for it. Just scan the enemies, get to Semaris, and get endo. It is easy. The second to last way, the 7th way to get endo is excavation missions on Iris. This way is extremely good if you are trying to get decent amount of starter endo, Axio relics and also Cryotic. Besides that though, I wouldn't really do this. And now, the last way, the sorties, which is pretty self-explanatory. Finish them and have a chance to get endo. I won't even delve into more details because doing a sortie is easy. That is actually it about endo farming. You may also get endo in unlimited ways through any missions. I myself also gained tens of thousands of endo by scrapping all my duplicate mods, which you can do by going to the mod segment at your orbiter, selecting the mods and then amount you want, then dissolve them and destroy them into endo. It is easy and great to do. A quick thing I really want to point out is the mod drop booster. It actually does double the amount of endo you get, but only the one that drops from the enemies, like Steel Path, Vodianoi Arena. So yeah, just a quick disclaimer. Steel Essence, a resource that is exclusive to Steel Path. To very quickly tell you what Steel Path is, it is Warframe's hard mode in which you don't specifically need good weapons, but you do need to have the right Warframe for the job, and you need to know the mechanics. This mode will open up a new star chart with extremely buffed enemies. All the missions will start with 100 more levels, and besides that, the enemies will also get 150% boost to health, armor and shields. Real bullet sponges. There is also an upside to this. There is an automatic resource drop booster and mod booster to any mission you play, which stacks with the boosters you already have on yourself. To unlock Steel Path, you need to first complete every single node on the star chart and then go to Teshin. Ask him about the Steel Path and that is it. Now you can go get yourself Steel Essence. Steel Essence is only used for one thing: buying stuff from Teshin. He will always sell Operator Cosmetics, Kuva, Relic Packs, Stance Forma and other stuff, plus one weekly offer that is most of the time really good, like Umbra Forma, stupendous amounts of cheap Kuva and endo, and also ribbons of different varieties. Prices of the stuff are on the screen right now. Now that we've seen the rewards, let's go farming Steel Essence. There is only 4 ways. First way is completing all the nodes on one specific planet. For this you will get 25 Steel Essence. This is unreliable however because this is not repeatable, but it is still a lot of Steel Essence. Second way is from Acolytes. They will spawn in any mission that is not archering based or submersible, so in normal survival will do just fine. One Acolyte will spawn after being in a mission for about 5 minutes, and the next one 10, and so on and so on, so a 5-minute interval. If you die, the Acolyte will disappear and you will have to wait additional 5 minutes to get one, but if it dies, it will drop 2 Steel Essence. For this way, you also may use the double resource booster because it actually works. You will get 4 Steel Essence at the end. Now let's go to the third way, the Incursions, missions that give you some credits and 3 Steel Essence upon completion. You can find them in the alert section of the star chart when you have Steel Path enabled. And now the last, the fourth way, is the Eidolons on the plains of Eidolon. They're really hard and upon defeating them, they drop 1 Steel Essence, which is just not reliable. They are just extremely hard to kill, so yeah, prepare for that if you want to do this. Riven Slivers. If you don't know what the Riven Slivers are, they're a material that is only used for one thing, and that is buying 1 Riven per week from Paladino at Iron Wake on Earth. The offer refreshes every Tuesday midnight UTC and can be bought for 10 slivers, which is not such a bad thing, but let's look at how to get them. There is only 4 ways to get them. First we will start with the more reliable ones and then continue towards the less reliable ones. The first way is Steel Path Eximus units. They may drop 1 Riven Sliver upon death with an about 2% drop chance. The best way is to just go into a long survival mission and do an hour or 2 of it, or going on Odin on Mercury. People just really like to do that. Both kinds of boosters work for the Riven Slivers, drop chance and double resource booster, with an addition of looting Warframes such as Necras, Korra and others. The second way is the Requiem relics, which you can open in the Requiem fissures. They are common rewards, so getting them shouldn't be a problem. If you get a Requiem mod though, get that, it is far better in my opinion. The third way is Rayojack missions. You may get the Riven Slivers as rewards upon completion of the mission. The drop chances vary from 2 to 5% depending on the Proxima. Harder the Proxima, higher the drop chance. However, this way is insane for farming them. For real. Go for anything else, just not the slivers. And the last way, the fourth way, is killing the Jackal on Venus. The Jackal has to be above level 41, so this is only achievable with Sorties or Steel Path. The drop chance in normal missions is about 5% and Steel Path only 10% because of the auto double resource drop booster. There is only two reasons you need the Juggernauts for. The first one is the Sands of Inaros quest. You need to kill 5 Juggernauts for progression of the Sacred Vessel if the symbol is on the jar. The second reason, however, is to get the drops: Chitinous Husk, Infested Palpatures, Pulsating Tubercules, and Severed Bowsack. I don't know if I pronounced this correctly. You will get one of these resources each time you eliminate a Juggernaut. You may also get the Ferrite Pods blueprint, which has a 5% drop chance, so 1 out of 20 Juggernauts will give you 1, in theory. Now let's go over how to kill it. No matter the Juggernaut variety, it will be easily killed by shooting it in one of 2 weak spots it has. One of the weak spots is on the back, which opens up while he is shooting at you, and the other one is on its belly when it stands up on its hind legs. You can obviously also damage the Juggernauts by shooting them anywhere really. They are easily killed by some weapons. If you are counting on that, you should mod your weapons for either corrosive damage or gas damage. The damage types jugs are squishy too. I would recommend you to choose corrosive though, because it is just easier against the other infested. But that is pretty much it about the Juggernauts, so now let's look at where to find them. First, we'll take a look at the ones that can spawn during any infested mission that is not endless, such as Capture, Exterminate, Rescue, and so on and so on. There is a chance Juggernaut will spawn in your mission, most of the time dependent on the mission level. Higher the level, higher the chance of a Juggernaut spawn. I myself would really recommend Eris, Isos, Capture. I've gotten the Juggernaut there 9 out of 10 times I tested, so let's say it is reliable. You can also run infested outbreaks, which will be all around the system all the time, so yeah, you choose. In these missions there will be a flashing screen at some point and the infested enemies will have an orange overcoat. This means there is a Juggernaut in the vicinity. What you need to do now is kill as many infested enemies as quickly as possible. When you do kill enough infested, Juggernaut will appear in the mission somewhere and you will need to kill it. That was actually it about the first way. The second way is Open World of Deimos Cambion Drift. Now this way is not as reliable as the first one because there is no guarantee of a Juggernaut spawn, but you can get more than one in one session. I would suggest playing any bounty that is tier 3 and above since they are more common there, at least from my experience. Also, more people there is in a squad, more you will get, so max squad, let's go. And the last way is by running Jorda's Golem Assassination mission. You do not need any resources from the Juggernaut at this point, but you can do this if you don't find any Juggernauts in your missions and need a 100% guarantee to get one. By doing the Jorda's Golem Assassination, you will at some point need to kill the Juggernaut Behemoth, which works the same way as the normal one. It is just a bit bigger. Kavat genetic code is used for 2 things. One is getting the actual Kavat as your companion, and the other one is Korra, a very fun and also powerful Warframe to play with. Kavat genetic code can be acquired only from feral Kavats that are running around Deimos, any node besides the Cambion Drift and the Necrolisk. My favorite places are Horrend Capture and Philiges Exterminate just because they are very quick. You can also try for Meadow Sabotage or Tellurium Survival. Tellurium will spawn Kavats every 5 minutes or so, so you should get some this way. The spawn rate of Kavats is pretty inconsistent. Sometimes you will get up to 6 or even 8 per mission, and sometimes just none. Most of the time they will spawn in groups of 2 or 3, so be sure to look around. By instinct, you probably just want to kill them and get the Kavat genetic code, but sadly it doesn't work this way. You do not want to kill the feral Kavats, but scan them, which is not such an easy task to do actually. They most of the time are cloaked and are not detectable with the normal radar, so looking for them with a scanner is a must. For scanning the Kavats, you'll need to get yourself some normal scanners from the market or synthesis scanners from Semaris. Sadly, if you have Helios as your companion sentinel, he will not be able to scan them if you already reached the limit, so you will be on your own for this one. A feral Kavat that is cloaked looks like this. You just need to scan it, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. The chance you will get one genetic code is about 25% from one scan, so you should get one after scanning about 4 Kavats. Obviously, there is some other ways as well to get more, and we are going to go through that right now. First two ones are pretty legit, the resource boosters and resource double boosters. The first one amps up the drop chance of scanning to 50% from 25, and the latter one just gives you 2 genetic codes instead of 1. If you by some random chance have Ballistica Prime, you may use it to your advantage. Shooting the feral Kavat after you scan it once will kill it and in its place make a new shadowy one. This shadow will go away quite quickly, but if you do scan it, it will count as a normal feral Kavat. So yeah, double the Kavats. If you do not want to use the scanners, you may use any kind of helicore you have, a hammer that scans enemies you kill, so you can literally just squeeze the genetic code out of the Kavats. Pretty immoral and unethical, but it is a feature, so yeah. That's it about the scanning ways and techniques and stuff like that, so right now I'm just going to give you a few tips, I guess. Most of the time the Kavats will be just jumping around and there will be a lot of infested that attack you, so you really need to be good with scanning and also have a lot of patience, or you need some Warframe that keeps the Kavats in place. Warframes that do that are Evara, Equinox, Atlas, Frost, Harrow, and so on and so on. Remember though, you do not want to kill the poor kitties. The second tip is also quite a useful one. In case you don't know, the Orokin vaults on Deimos will give you some quite good mods. Having keys on yourself in that case is very recommended, even though the missions might get quite a bit harder. The third tip is a very important one. If you really need Kavat genetic codes, do the scanning solo or in a squad, of which it is a goal. There has been many instances I've seen of people screaming at each other over a forever sleeping Kavat. So yeah, this is more of a nerve soothing tip, I guess. That's actually it. If you're farming your genetic code for a Kavat, a Smita Kavat is definitely one of the best, absolute best picks for a companion. This is a picture of me and my Kavat farming Toroids. Toroids are a very rare resource sometimes and are nerve-wracking to get, and you really need a lot of them. So yeah, they're I think comparable to Neurodes, a bit more common but not much. So yeah, for real, I can't recommend Kavats more than by showing this. This is literally insane. Talking about Kavats, the Kavat lady of Warframe, Cora, is besides Necros one of the best Warframes to farm resources with from enemies. Extremely good actually. Even better than Necros if modded right. So the only thing Mutalist Alad V nav coordinates are used for is the Mutalist Alad V Assassination, which you can find on Iris. To access it, you will need one Mutalist Alad V Assassination key, which you will be able to craft after you complete the quest Patient Zero. You can craft the keys in your foundry with some resources and also one Mutalist Alad V nav coordinate. But yeah, then you can go fight Salad V. The fight is quite hard for the first time, but the reward for eliminating him is Mesa Parts, one of the best nuke frames in the game. Let's now go over where to get the Mutalist nav coordinates. There is 4 ways to get them. First one are the infested outbreaks, which you can find in the upper right corner under invasions when looking at your star chart. You now need to look if there actually is an invasion for the Mutalist nav coordinate. If there is, you need to support the Grenier or Corpus 3 times against the infested. After you do, you need to wait. You will not get the rewards right away, but you will get them after the invasion is complete, which takes for a few hours sometimes and maybe a few days. So yeah, it is a waiting game. The second most reliable way is playing Heavy Defense on Deimos. On Rotation B, which is the 15th wave, you have a 22.5 chance to get Mutalist Alad V nav coordinate. I recommend you to stay there to Rotation C or Wave 20 though, because there is also an insanely high chance to get a Forma blueprint on it. You will also get a lot of Lith relics and Meso relics this way, so that is always nice. The third way to get Mutalist Alad V nav coordinates is Tellurium Survival on Deimos. There is a 12.5 drop chance to get it on Rotation B, the 15-minute mark. This way you will also get a bunch of relics, and if you stay till Rotation C, 20 minutes, there is also a chance you will get Octavia Prime Neuroptics, or Octavia or whatever. I can't stress enough how fun Octavia is. Get her normal version if there's no Prime version out. Just do it. And now the fourth way, the last way, is the rare caches on Deimos, node Rubedo, or Eris node Naglar. I think I said it right. I do not recommend finding the caches, they look like this, but if you want some stimulation, on Eris if you find all 3 caches, there is a chance to get some nice mods. High voltage and shell shock, insanely good to have, for real. If you need a plant, you're probably here for one of two things: the Apothix for the Silver Glove, or the Antitoxins for the Sabotage missions on Earth. However, we're not here to do those missions, we're only here to get some plants. So let's go. First thing you need to do before you can get the plants is equip a scanner which you can buy from the market. It is just the normal one, but you can also buy the synthesis scanner from Cephalon Semaris. However, if you're a complete starter, don't waste your money on Cephalon Semaris' scanners. They are very costly, but the normal ones are cheaper. Way cheaper. To equip a scanner, go to your arsenal just above the Warframe you have, then click on the gear circle icon and choose gear. And then find a free spot to equip your scanner. If you have everything full, just go to the end and extend it by clicking on the last spot you have. Now that you have your scanner equipped, you can go and get your plants. Let's first look at the plants you can find on Earth: Trash Cones, Dragon Lilies, and Jade Leaves. Every single one of these has two kinds, the Sunlight version and the Moonlight version, which change every 4 hours, just like the Earth's day-night cycle. If you're not sure how this works, you can go to your internet browser, search up Warframe trackers and your platform, and then look for the Earth's day-night cycle. You can see which part of the day it is and how much time it will still last. Okay, if you need a picture in which you can get the Trash Cones, Dragon Lilies, and Jade Leaves, here we are. The yellow one is my favorite because it is the fastest, but the red ones are just normal missions you can do and scan plants. When you get into a mission, you'll first need to equip the scanner by pressing the Q button. When you have it equipped, just hold the right mouse button and you should be able to look around and see stuff all around you. Some of it may be colored in orange and some of it may be colored in green, but at this point we're only looking for the shape of the plants and not the color. So now let's look at the actual plants. During the day, the Sunlight Thresh Cones are going to look like this. Sunlight Jade Leaves are going to look like this. And this is what the Sunlight Dragon Lilies are going to look like. And during the night, Moonlight Thresh Cones are going to look like this, Moonlight Jade Leaves like this, and Moonlight Dragon Lilies like this. The only thing you need to do is come up to the plant, right click and then left click to scan it, and that's it. That's all of the plants you can find on Earth, so let's go to the next ones. Rook's Claw on Mars. You can find it on these missions right here, again the yellow one being the fastest one. This one works the same way, equip the scanner and scan it. This is also the only plant on Mars and is very easy to find, so yeah, we can continue with the next one. Dusklight Sarracenia is hard to find and it is also not that plentiful, which you know, it's not that good. You can find it on these nodes right here on Sirius, with the fastest one being the yellow one again. Again, the only things you need to do is look for the shape of it and scan it. That's it. Normally it is found in puddles, so look for that. The next one on the list is Vestan Moss, which you can only find on Grineer asteroid bases. Here's the full list of them right here, with the fastest one being on Mercury, the yellow one. Again, just look for the shape of it, but yeah, this one is a little bit harder to find, but you can still do it, it's okay. Following the Vestan Moss is the Frost Leaf, which you can find on Corvus Outposts. Here is a full list of the missions you can find the Frost Leaf at to help you on your journey. You'll most of the time just find a lot of them in one tile, so finding them shouldn't be a problem. And the last one is the Lua Pitcher. This is only accessible to you if you have completed a quest called The Second Dream. For those that haven't completed the quest yet and don't want spoilers, please skip about 30 seconds ahead from now. You may find the Lua Pitchers on Lua, obviously, right next to Earth. You can find them on any mission with the exception of Defense, and if you want to know what they look like this. I sincerely hope this helped you at least a little bit with your plant hunting for your apothecs and antitoxins, but for the end, I still have some tips. The first tip are the synthesis scanners that you can find at Cephalon Samaris on any relay besides Maru's Bazaar and some event funds. You can buy a few upgrades for your synthesis scanner there for Sanctuary standing, the best one being the one that has a chance to scan the scannable thing twice instead of once. Do this only if you have a lot of money and don't know what to do with it, so yeah, you can buy yourself a bunch of synthesis scanners until you have unlimited. The second tip is the double resource booster, which will double the scannable plants when you scan them, which, you know, it's quite nice. The third one is Helios. Helios is a sentinel like Taxon that flies around your head and scans things, but it will only scan plants if they are still orange, and if they are not, they're always green, well, he will not, so be sure to get a better sentinel, or if you want to, a better companion, because Helios is kind of useless at that point. And the last tip is just a little warning: please don't avoid the objective and let people wait for you at extraction, so if you can, do this thing solo or really quickly, so yeah, just a little bit of a warning and a nice thought. Warframe pigments, colors you have to farm up to decorate your dojo. First, we will go over why you need the pigments and how to use them in the dojo, and then we will go over how to farm every single one of them. So, let's just go. The pigment station is located in the dojo, more specifically in Tenno Lab. All of the colors require 10,000 credits plus X amount of pigments, which are only dropped from specific enemies. There is two phases of getting color for every pigment. The first one is collecting your resources, and the second one is researching the color. You may collect and research one pigment at a time. When you want to unlock one of the colors, you have to start the collecting of the resources for that color first. Then the enemies will start dropping the pigments. You may also pause the collection of the resource for one color and start researching another one, but be sure to contribute all of the pigment you wish to pause. If you don't, it will just get deleted. I think it is very important to point out that you may only collect and research one pigment at a time again. Contributing all the required resources will start a 36-hour countdown. You now have to wait until it is done, and then you can choose another pigment to farm after the 36 hours. When the color is researched, you can now customize your dojo by clicking the escape button, going under decorations, and then polychrome room. You can now place down a polychrome. You may place the polychrome down anywhere in the room, it will disappear later, but be sure to know that it will only paint the room that it is in. Okay, let's look at the polychrome now. There's a few options. First two ones at the bottom are change room colors and change lighting colors. These ones contain the colors you researched. You may also preview the colors to see the room for some time and walk around, and at the end, if you are happy with what you see, go back to polychrome and fund construction. For real, the resources you need for this are not that hard to get, so you can do a whole dojo at a time. After 24 hours, the colors of the dojo will be changed to the ones you set in the polychrome. But that is it for the colors. Now I'll just give you a few tips that may help you with farming pigments. Looting Warframes such as Necra, Sevara, Korra, and so on will get you a lot more pigments. Resource boosters of both kinds, the drop chance and double resource boosters, do work, so be sure to use them. But yeah, that is pretty much everything you need to know for boosting your farming of pigments. Before we start with the pigments, I will also quickly tell you about what will be shown after I talk about a specific pigment. This is one of the pigment cards with the name of the pigment, the picture of the pigment and the color of the pigment on the top, then the enemy from which you can get the pigment. Under that there is the location where the enemy spawns. Below the location there is the amount you need in total on the left, and on the right there is the amount of pigment an enemy will drop if it drops it. There is also the drop chance and my favorite spot below it. Besides that, I will also add something called a rageometer with 5 categories. The farming green category is just extremely easy to farm pigments, like going to one mission and you're done. The yellow I'm going in category includes enemies for which you will only need time to farm up, so it might get a little bit boring, but it is not that bad. Orange Wheel of Steel category, for which you need quite a lot of know-how and time to actually farm up efficiently, is quite hard. So yeah, This is the point of no return pretty much. The red Hey Cruel World category is, yeah, it's not just painfully boring and long, but it is also pointless since you can't farm anything else besides it, the pigment, or, well, it is just not worth it to get the other rewards, so yeah, it is just terrible. And the last category, purple, make me understand, which is beyond the scale and will lead to eventual burnout or forced inclusion into a mental asylum. So yeah, you were warned. Also very important to know is that the amount of pigment you actually need is depending on your clan rank. Ghost clans just need the normal amount of pigment, the Shadow clans need 3 times the normal amount, the Storm clans need 10 times the normal amount, the Mountain clans 30 times, and the Moon clans 100 times. So yeah, more people, that is true, but you will just need to farm more. First we will go over the enemies you can find in the Orb Valleys. This way you will get many toroids, resources you will need a lot of. The farming will work the same way every single time, by going to a specific location on the map, those being the Enrichment Labs, Temple of Prophet, or a Spaceport, and leaving an enemy to place down an alert beacon. The enemies you can get pigments from will start spawning at alert level 3. Again though, I will add that there is a lot of ways to get toroids. This one is probably one of the best ones. You're farming pigments and toroids at the same time. It is just great. But now let's go to the pigments. 01000011 Cyan pigment comes from Terra Raptor SX and its elite version. Normally they just spawn anywhere at the Temple of Prophet, Enrichment Labs, or Spaceport. They're also quite huge, so you will definitely see them. Memoriam Purple is dropped by Terra Provisors and their elite versions. I hope I said this right. The best place to find them is the Temple Fabrication, but you can also find some outside of Spaceport. Conductor Gold pigment comes from Terra Ambator Moas, and their elite versions as well. They are found anywhere from Spaceport, Enrichment Labs, and Temple of Prophet. You can also find them by playing the bounties, but they are not as common there. You can get Coolant Blue by killing Terra Overtakers and their elite versions. These enemies are extremely common, so getting this pigment shouldn't be that hard. Neo Pink is dropped from Terra Trenchers. Insanely hard enemies to kill just because they will stagger you all the freaking time. They will jump around and kill you, maybe? I don't know, we'll see. That is it about the pigments you can find in the Orb Valleys. We will now go over the ones which you can find on the plains of Eidolon. There is 4 of them. Devar Grey is dropped from Tusk Mortar Bombards. There is not many of them out there on the plains, so yeah, best bet is to do high level bounties tier 4 or 5 and try to get rewards as primary objective like Eidolon lenses and stuff like that. Mortis Pink is a very easy pigment to get. It drops from Tusk Flameblades. I suggest you go into any bounty that is tier 3 or above. For real, it will take you a very short time unless you have Forsaken RNGesus. Shard Black is quite a grindy pigment, only dropped from Womvalis, spawning in at nighttime on the plains. There is 2 ways to farm it. One is flying around on the Archwing looking for Woms and killing them this way. I myself, however, would rather suggest you to do the Eidolon or even Tridolon hunts if you can. The reward output is just much better. And now the last pigment on the plains, Wisp Grey. This one is very painful to farm. They drop from Darrigan pilots. The only reliable way to farm this pigment is to fly around during the daytime and look for Darrigan pilots on the ground which spawn from time to time. You may do this the whole day cycle, but yeah, farming is pathetically boring, so I suggest you to bring a looting frame. That is it about the pigments of Plains of Eidolon. So let's now continue to the non-boss based pigments on the star chart. Most of these will require you to do longer survival missions or multiple of them to acquire all the pigment for the research. But yeah, let's go. Charger Blue is a pigment which you can get from Toxic Ancients. The easiest way to get it is to just do a long infested survival or any other endless infested mission. They will not spawn right at the beginning, but will start spawning after the wave 5 or 5th minute of survival. Crawler Blue is a terrible pigment to farm. It only drops from infested crawlers, which you can most commonly find in endless missions such as survivals or defenses. They will not spawn right away, but will spawn in larger amounts after about 5-minute mark or 5th wave. Mutalist Red is dropped from Tar Mutalist Moas, the ones that spit out all the orange goo. They can be found at any infested mission, so you can do any of them, preferably endless ones. Most of the time, Mutalist Moas will spawn after the 5th minute mark or 5th wave, so yeah, not right away. Nanite Blue has a low chance to drop from Chargers, which are the most common enemy in any infested mission. This pigment really shouldn't be a problem, just do an endless infested mission and you should have more than enough. The next set of enemies is either Void or Void Fissure exclusive, but yeah, I think the best location is still getting them in the Void. Autumn Brown is only dropped from the Corrupted Moas anywhere in the Void. I suggest you to do a long survival mission for this one. The pigment is not that rare, but also not the most common. At the end, you will get a lot of Argon Crystals, so be sure to do this only if you're in need of them. Dust Brown is dropped by Corrupted Lancers found in the Void. Just do a long survival mission or pretty much any mission about relics and void fissures and stuff like that, and you will get a lot of this pigment. For real, they are one of the most common corrupted enemies. Leech Green is dropped from Corrupted Crewmen in the Void. A long survival or two will get you most of the pigment you need, so yeah, you can also get this pigment through the Void Fissures, just in lesser amounts. But yeah, they are extremely common, so this shouldn't be a problem. Moa Green is dropped from Orokin drones. They are only found in the Void and are floating around enemies, giving them shields. For real, a long survival will be good enough, because they are extremely common. The next set of pigments is based around Corpus enemies. First one is Glacial Blue, which you can get from crewmen. They are extremely common enemies on Venus, but you can only find them on the ground nodes, and not in the spaceship nodes. If you want to get all the pigment in one go, I suggest you to do Kilken Excavation. You do need to watch out because the crewmen, the normal ones, will be at some point replaced by elite crewmen, so as soon as you see a large amount of elite crewmen, just go. Railgun Blue is dropped from Railgun Moas, which are not that rare. They can be found at snowy and icy Corpus tile sets like Europa, Neptune or Pluto, and also on Lua node Apollo, my favorite. Jackal Yellow is quite a painful pigment to get. It comes from Sniper Crewmen, the yellow colored corpus. They can be found at any snowy or icy corpus tile set around the star chart, with the best places being 4 planets: Europa, Neptune, Pluto and Lua. If you don't feel like doing an endless mission or something like that, and also need Detonite injectors, I suggest you to side with Grineer in their invasions. The Sniper Crewmen will actually start spawning right away there, so it is extremely easy to farm them. Morning Yellow is dropped from Leech Ospreys, extremely tough enemies to farm, not because they are strong, but because they are so rare. They can be found on Corpus Icy or Snowy tile sets and Lua. I myself would suggest doing any endless mission on Europa, Neptune, Pluto or Lua. They are deployed by Fusion Moas, which are by themselves rare, so yeah, this one will be tough to get. The next set of enemies we get the pigments from are the Grineer. Easy to farm, really. Hesperia Brown is dropped by Troopers, the yellow Grineer with shotguns. I'd suggest doing a long survival on any Grineer based planet such as Ceres, Saturn or Sedna. You can do any other Grineer based endless mission as well. These guys are everywhere. Oak Brown can be obtained by killing the Butchers. Just playing any Grineer based mission will do. I suggest doing a longer survival on Mercury, Ceres, Sedna or Saturn. But for real, they are everywhere as well, so yeah. The Olympus Blue is a pigment only dropped from Grineer Lancers. Even though you might think they are extremely common, they are not. You need to play low-level Grineer missions on Mercury, Earth or Ceres. You'll find far less of them elsewhere. I myself suggest you to play survivals or even exterminates, but yeah, you can also play other endless missions such as defenses or interceptions, but watch out because the elite Lancers will soon replace the normal Lancers. So yeah, as soon as you see a lot of elite Lancers, just stop farming them. Just go. River Blue is dropped by Seekers, which you can find most commonly on Grineer Galleons or asteroid bases. Saturn or Sedna are a goldmine for them, almost every node actually. So yeah, do a long survival and you should get a lot of them. They will start spawning after 5 to 10 minutes and look like this, green. They are perfect. Sand Yellow will be one of the easiest pigments to get, really. It is dropped by Scorpions, which are very common on Grineer Galleons and asteroid bases, especially on Saturn and Sedna. I suggest doing a long survival. They will just spawn quite consistently, so this shouldn't be hard. Tharsis Brown is dropped from Ballistas, Grineer enemies found at Grineer asteroid bases and Galleons. They're not that rare as well, so doing a bit longer survival should be a-okay. Cetus Orange is dropped from very rare enemies found at Mars City Tile set called the Arid Eviscerator. I myself would suggest you to do any endless mission on Mars like Augustus Excavation or Alator Interception. I can't believe I actually read Eviscator or something like that and not Eviscerator all this time in Warframe. I'm freaking dyslexic or something, I don't know. Tree Green is a pigment only dropped from Arid Lancers, enemies all over Mars on the Mars City Tile set. I myself would suggest doing Augustus Excavation or Alator Interception, but only to the point where the elite versions of the Lancers spawn. When they start spawning, there will soon be no more normal Arid Lancers, so you should just stop. And now the last Grenier based pigment, Tower White, can be dropped from Kuva Jesters. Very rare enemies only found at Kuva Fortress and Kuva Siphon missions. I myself suggest you to do any endless mission you like at Kuva Fortress. For real, the best one is probably Survival, so you will get lots of Kuva as well. By this point, we are done with all the enemies you can find all over the star chart, so we must go to the assassination target based pigments. First one is Elysium Blue. It is one of the easiest pigments to farm, but it will take you some time. You can only get this pigment from the Sergeant, which you can find at Phobos Assassination Node Iliad. For real, it is easy, just a little bit time consuming. Night Blue is dropped from Vayhek, found on Earth node Aura. It is only an assassination mission, so it shouldn't be that hard. I suggest you to try farming Hydroid while killing this guy. The mission is quite long, so yeah, it will take you quite some time. Also, stop stealing his air. Stop. Boiler Red is an invasion-based pigment. You can only get it by killing Phorid, which is always present on assassination nodes taken over by infested outbreaks. For real, you can farm this one up in half an hour or even less if quick. So yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. Leaf Red is a pigment that only depends on RNG. You can get it from Stalker or Shadow Stalker. He might come for you if you are marked by him, which you definitely are. You can see that at your profile. For real, I did make a video about him already, the Stalker and Shadow Stalker, so if you want to get some more details on that, you should look at it. It is in the upper right corner right now. And the last pigment, Anti-Violet, one of the most painful pigments to farm. They only drop from Zanuka Hunter, which you can encounter only in two ways. First way is by getting marked by it. For that you will need to play 5 invasion missions and support Grenier against the Corpus. It won't count if you go against the Infested. You can see if you are marked by looking at your profile. The mark looks like this. You will also get a beautiful threatening message from Alat V. The second way of getting Zanuka Hunter to spawn is to get Zanuka Hunter beacons from Baroketeer or Nightwave cred offerings. This is extremely expensive though. Zanuka Hunter may spawn in any Corpus mission after you get marked, similar to Stalker. By killing it, you will besides the pigment also get Detron parts, a very fun weapon to play with when crafted. Farming this pigment will for real get you a lot of Detonite injectors, since you need to support the Grenier all the time. Believe me, it will take you months to farm this up, if not lucky, or if lucky, I don't know what to say. But for real, that is it. Anti-Serum Injector Fragment. This resource can only be found in the infested Salvage missions on Iris and is completely useless. The only thing you need it for is researching the Anti-Serum Injector in your dojo, which also does not have any real uses besides getting you armor backup in the infested Salvage mission. You may also sell one for 5 credits, so yeah, graph it. The next resource on the list are nav coordinates. You will need less than 50 of them on your travels and will get them all the time from broken crates. At least you can feed them to Helmet. Javelock capacitors drop from Grenier prosecutors, enemies found on Grenier shipyard tile sets. You'll need 6 of them to make yourself a Javelock. The rest can go into your helmet. Scintilla is a resource used for crafting stims, which boosts your performance on one level and degrade it on the other, like giving you more resistance, but making you slower. For real, I have never seen a player actually use one. Ever. Judgment points are only acquired by playing the Rathum Arena on Sedna and are used for the Kiela the Thame boss fight. I actually misspelled Kiela on my script. Other than that, nothing. For real, nothing. Just no. The next resource is Trembera Essence. This resource was used in one event in 2018 and no more. There's probably a lot more resources in past events, but for real, I don't give a shit. I will not even mention them from now on. The next one is Synthetic Eidolon Shard, which is a knockoff of the real Eidolon Shard Semaris has made in his basement. You can get it from Sanctuary Onslaught. Its only use is to give you 5k focus for your operator, but don't even try farming them. They're the lowest form of garbage out there, and Semaris can go back to his anime or whatever. Orokin ciphers are obtained by opening Orokin vaults on Deimos. There is no use of them. You can't do shit with them, really. Hemocyte Systolith is a resource obtained from the Hemocyte, an event boss long forgotten to all of Warframe. It is used to make dojo statues. That is it. Kubro eggs are Kubro eggs. You can find them in Grenier forest areas on Earth by destroying the nests, the feral Kubro nests. If you're looking for one, I think I have over 6. Yeah, I don't even know. And now, finally, the last 2 resources that are actually not junk, but the most unique pieces of Warframe lore no one talks about: the Grenier boot and the Crewman boot. These smelly pieces of 100% synthetic material are found by fishing on the plains of Eidolon or the Orvalis, respectively. I myself have an altar of the Grenier boot because that is a real masterpiece. The masterpiece to rule them all. The first time you'll be able to fish is on the plains of Eidolon, so you will need a fishing spear. You can get everything from Fisher High Luke, located on Cetus. If you don't know how to get to her, just click the escape button, fast travel, and Fisher High Luke. When you actually interact with her, you need to click the brow squares and look for the spear. There is 3 spears for the fish in the plains: the Lanzo, the Tulok, and the Param. And to not bore you, let's just say that some fish can be caught by only using one spear, and if it isn't, you will not catch it right away and the fish will escape. Every single spear is going to cost some standing, but I guess it's okay because it's not that much, really. But now that we got all the spears, let's just quickly equip them. Just go to your arsenal, then under the gear, and choose one of the spears. This will show you all the kinds of spears you have, even the ones that will not work. Now, let's head outside and look for a place to fish. Plains of Eidolon has 3 kinds of fishing areas: the big lake, colored blue, the pond, colored green, and the ocean, colored yellow. I also marked my favorite fishing areas with red. If you want to look at the same map I am right now, you just need to hold the M button for some time. And, oh yeah, this will also show you the time, which is quite important since you need to fish for some fish at day and some fish at night. Okay, let's start to fish at the ocean. You can start fishing anywhere really, but you will only get the most common fish. To get the rarer fish, you will need to find fishing spots, which are quite easy to spot actually. They look like bubbling on the water surface and last for some time. You will find many more fish around these, the common ones of course, but if you want to find the rarer ones, you will need some bait, which you can buy with standing from the same Fisher High Luke. There is different kinds of bait, which you need to drop into the bubbly fishing spot, but first let's just try and find a nice location. When you get to your favorite fishing spot, you will first need to deal with the Grenier, which are freaking everywhere, and when you deal with them, get next to your water. The first thing you need to do now is equip the fishing spear. Now that you did, you can hold the 1 button to exchange the spear you currently have equipped, 2 to change the currently equipped bait, and 3 to exchange the luminous dye or pheromones also bought from Fisher High Luke. Okay, for real now, let's fish. What you will need to do is aim and listen. Fish make a very distinct sound which you will need to listen to if you want to catch them. If you like to listen to music besides your game, as I do, you can also throw in luminous dye, which will make all the fish extremely radiant and you will be able to catch more. The luminous dye does cost some standing, but, well, if you want to listen to music, everything is good. If you also have one of those fishing spots at your fishing location, you can throw in the bait and attract some rarer fish. But let's actually go over the fish. So, I made an interface for this that will show you at what time you can catch the fish, the fishing spear you need, the bait to get the fish with, and the drops you can get by getting the fish. On the plains of Ayatan, of course. So, let's start. Mawfish are found in the big lake in front of the entrance. They can be fished up by any fishing spear found at Cetus. They are active at daytime and don't require any bait, but if you want to, you can use the peppered bait. The specific resource you get from them are the mawfish bones. Charkeel is another fish found in the big lake. You can fish it up by any fishing spear found at Cetus. They can rarely be seen swimming around at daytime, but at nighttime there will be a huge amount of them. You do not need any bait to lure them out, but if you do want to, you can use the twilight bait. The specific resource they drop is the Croc Electroplax. Kutkut is a fish found in ponds at daytime and can be scooped up by any of the Cetus fishing spears. If you want to, you can use the peppered bait to get more, and the specific resource for this one is called the Kutkut Venom Sac. The next fish is called Yogwun, which is also found in the pond swimming alongside Kutkut. It is found at daytime and can be caught with any of the Cetus spears. To get more, you can also use the peppered bait, but it is not necessary. Specific resource they drop is called the Yogwun Stomach. Another fish you can find in the pond is Mortis Lungfish, rarely at the daytime and absolutely at nighttime. To catch it, you need either the Lanzo or the Param fishing spear, so don't try to get it with the Tulak one. If you want to get more, you can use the Twilight bait, but it is not necessary. Specific resource they drop is called the Mortis Horn. Gupola is a fish found in the ocean at day and night and can be caught by any Cetus spear. You can lure it out with peppered bait, but I don't suggest you to do so just because they are so common. Specific resource they drop is called the Gupola Spleen. Tralocs are pretty rare. They can be found in the ocean at daytime and can be fished up by a Tulak or Param spears. No bait is needed, but if you want to get more, use the peppered bait. Specific resource they drop is the Traloc Eyes. Next one on the platter is Sharak, which is both day and nighttime fish found in the ocean. To catch it, you will need either the Tulak or Lanzo spear. It spawns very rarely, so you need to use the Twilight bait for this one. Specific resource you can get from them are the Sharak teeth. Karkina is also found in the ocean at day or night. It can only be caught by Lanzo or Tulak fishing spears. They are rare, so Twilight bait is the best way to get them, definitely. The specific resource they have is called Karkina Antenna. Mercury is an ocean-dwelling fish and can be found at day and night. You can only catch it with the Lanzo fishing spear. You'll almost never find it by chance, so the Mercury bait is absolutely the only way to find them. The specific resource they drop is called the Mercury Lever. Next fish we have is the Big Norg, only found at nighttime in the Big Cetus Lake. To fish for it, you can only use the Param fishing spear. To bait Norg, you will need Norg bait, or it doesn't spawn at all. Specific resource you can get from them is called the Norg Big Brain. Kuthal is in my opinion the sickest looking fish on the plains, even though some may disagree and think this Sharak is the raddest. But you can't change my mind. It is only found in the ponds and can be fished up only by the Lanzo fishing spear. They need to be baited with a Kuthal bait, and the specific resource they drop is called the Kuthal Tendril. The last and the rarest of them all, Glapit fish, is so hard to come by that you need to fish for every single one of them for real. You can only find it in the ocean at nighttime and fished up with the Param spear. The bait you will need is called the Glapit bait, but watch the waters very carefully since they are pretty rare even if you're using the bait. The specific resource they drop is called the Ceram Beetle Shell. Now we're done with the fish at the plains, so let's return to Fisher High Luke at Cetus. You can now choose to cut the fish or give it in for standing, which is your choice. If you cut them, you will get some specific resources I mentioned with every fish, plus some fish meat, fish scales, and some fish oil depending on the size of fish. Besides fishing, you can get the fishing resources by defeating thumpers, which may spawn all over the plains. I have already made a guide on them, so be sure to check it out. But okay, for real, we're done with the fish on the plains. Let's now continue to Fortuna and Orb Valleys. The Fisherman of Fortuna is called the Business, who sells 2 new kinds of spears, the Shock Prod and the Stunner. When you get one of them, you will be able to catch all the fish in the Orb Valleys. Besides that, you can also get baits and pretty much everything else related to fish at the Business. Now let's see the differences between the 2 new spears. The Shock Prod only catches one fish and that is it, but the Stunner catches the fish and makes other fish close to it immobile for some time. You can equip your spear the same way as the ones in the plains, so you don't have to put them in the gear again. A very important thing to mention is that you can fish for the servo fish with the spears from the plains, but they will be damaged when you catch them, so they will just yield less resources. The fishing areas on Fortuna are also separated in 3, the big lake, the ponds and the caves. The red spots are marking my favorite spot for fishing. The alternative to the bubbly water on the plains is the green glow on top of coolant in the valleys, so yeah, just drop the bait in there and that is it. Also important is to note that since the plains have the day and night cycle, valleys has a cold and warm cycle. You can check that time by just pressing the M button and you have it right there. Okay, now let's get over the servo fish. I will tell you the temperature, when the fish can be fished up, the resource you can get and also where to find them. But for the spears, you just need to use either the Shock Prod or the Stunner, but for real it doesn't matter. Let's go. Eye is a servo fish found in the pond during warm weather. It is not that rare, but if you want to get more, you can use the narrow spectrum bait. The specific resource you can get is called the Roto Blade. Scrubbers are found in the cave at either cold or warm weather. There is no bait needed, but if you want to get more, you can use the broad spectrum bait. Specific resources they have inside them are the Exo Big Brains. The next snake-like servo fish is called the Echo Winder, only found in the lake at warm weather. You do not need any bait, but if you want to get more, you can use the broad spectrum bait. Specific resource they drop is called Anoscopic Sensor. Mire Winder, with no relation to the Fallout's Mire Lurk, is found in the caves of Orb Valleys at any temperature. If you can't find any, you can use the Mire Winder bait. Specific resource they drop is called the Parallel Biode. I broke my tongue on this one for like 30 times, Jesus. Longwinder is probably one of my least favorite servo fish to fish for, just because they are quite rare. You can find them in the lake at warm temperature when using the Longwinder bait, since they are quite rare. I said that 2 times, okay. What you can specifically get from them is called the Lathei Coagulant, which we don't really know what it is. Next on the disassembly line is the Bricky, which is found in ponds when there is warm. You'll probably not need any baits, but if you do, use the broad spectrum one. The specific resource we can get from them is called the Muon Battery. Tinks are the second most common fish you will find in the pond when there is cold. You will definitely not need any bait for them, but if you do somehow, use the broad spectrum bait. The specific resource they carry is the Dissipator Coil. From the second to the most common fish you will find, the Sap Caddy, you can find it in the lake at cold weather. Using the broad spectrum bait it will make it even commoner, which you will probably never need. Sap Caddy's specific resource is called the Venedo Case. Krillers are found in the lake only in warm weather and need to be baited with the Kriller bait. They are quite rare if you do not use it. Specific resource you can get from them is called the Thermal Laser. Recaster is one of the roundest fish which you can find in any ponds at cold weather. If you can't find them, use the narrow spectrum bait. Specific resource inside them is not so round neural relay. My tongue is breaking up, Jesus. The next Orokin servofish is the Tromezon, found in the ponds at cold weather. For this one you will need the Tromezon bait since it is extremely rare without it. Specific resource from them is the Entroplasma. Charomote is a cave-dwelling Orokin servofish found at any temperature. You need to use bait to find them since without it, it is just impossible. Specific resource they drop is the Seigan module. And finally the last servofish, the Orokin Synthaid. I hope I got that right. It can be found in the cave at any temperature and needs to be lured with the Synthaid bait. Otherwise, you will not find it at all. The specific resource they have is called the Ecosynth Analyzer. Yes! We finally went over the fish of Orvalis, so yeah, let's get back to business. Here you can again turn fish in for a standing, or you can disassemble them. From that you will get the specific fish resources and some scrap, which is quite useful for crafting. Besides fishing, you can get the fishing resources by destroying corpus crates and also by defeating the big spider orbs like Prophet Taker and Orb Mother. But again, let's head to the next open world, the Cambion Drift and the Necrolisk. Here your fisherman will be the daughter. From her you can buy 2 new fishing spears, the Sparia and the Ebisu spears. Again, I hope this is okay. You don't really need them, but they do come in quite handy. Let me show you. So if you use the normal Cetus spears, you can catch the fish that are above the water, that is here called the exocrine. And yes, the fish do float sometimes. However, you can't catch the fish that are in exocrine, so you will need one of the spears from the daughter, which one doesn't really matter. There is 2 new kinds of fishing spots. The first one is above the grounds, the surface, and the second one is in the caves. The bait you will need is almost all found in the open world. When the big worms die, there will be some meteors of delicious looking monster guts on the ground. So be sure to pick them up, because they are the bait. You also need the processed worm residue from the daughter, which also acts as bait, but only for 1 fish per bait type, so yeah, it's not that important. For the clock, you only need to hold the M button again and look at which worm is coming, so you don't fish at the wrong time. And oh yeah, the last thing I need to mention is the hot spots, which have the same glow as the Orvalis ones, so yeah, let's just go. The interface for now is going to consist of the bait you need, specific resources, the fish drop, and the worm time. And just a warning, if you thought I broke my tongue at any fish before this one's, then like this video and subscribe, since I put a lot of work in this video. I'll probably need some help with the broken tongue as well, so any help is welcome. The first fish we have is the Chimeros, found on the surface while any of the worm are active. It is extremely common, so you will not need any bait. Specific resources they have is called the saturated muscle mass. Barbisteo is a cave-dwelling fish found at any of the worms present, so yeah, it also doesn't require any bait, which is amazing. The specific resource they drop is called the Dendrite Blastoma. And a fun fact, blastoma is actually children cancer, so yeah. Cryptosuctus is a surface-infested fish that is only present while worm Phas is around. It doesn't need any bait and it drops a specific resource of Pustulant Cognitive Nodule. Jesus Christ. Next on the cancer list is the Amniophysae, found in the cave at any worm's presence. It doesn't require bait yet again, and when cut yields specific resource of Vacuum Sebum Deposit. Who the hell came up with this name? Jesus. Ostimir is found only on the surface while Phas is active. This infested fish doesn't require Phas residue as bait, and the specific resource they drop is as Chiameros before the saturated muscle mass. Glutinox, a surface-infested fish present while worm Worm is active, is only attracted when using Phas residue as bait. The specific resource they have inside them is called Sprolet Sac. Sprolet Sac, yes. The next fish is probably one of the most used ones, the Vitrospina, only found in the caves of Cambion Drift and lured out with Phas residue when any of the worms are active. Its specific resources are 2 actually, the spinal core section and the Dendrite Blastoma, as Barbasteo had. Neurode is found in the caves during both Fast and Voam, but is attracted to Voam residue. Specific resource they drop is called the Biotic Filter. The next fish we have is called Condicord, which is found in the caves while any of the worms are active. It is attracted to Voam residue, so use that as bait. The specific drop it has is the spinal cord section. Flagellocyanth is an infested fish found on the surface while Voam is active. You also need to fish for them in hot spots with the processed fast bait. But that is pretty much it. The resources you can get from them are called ocular stem root. The second fish, the Lobotricids, are also found on the surface while Voam is active. They can be found anywhere where the exocrine is, preferably not in the hotspots because Glutinox will be more numerous there. The resources you can get from them are called parasitic tether moss. Aquapulmo is a fish only found in the orange environment on the surface that is tainted by Wyrmface's guts. There you need to drop the processed fast residue and wait. There is sadly no other way to get them. The specific resource they drop are the Pustulant Cognitive Nodule and the Biotic Filter. And the last one is the Myxostomata, which is only active while Wyrmface is around. They can be found in the caves and require processed Voam residue to be baited. The resource they drop is called Cranial Foremount. Okay, for real, this is all the fish from Cambion Drift. You can now go back to the dollar and cut the fish there. With that, you will get some specific resources, benign infested tumors, and some tubercular gills systems, depending on the size of the fish. You can then turn these specific resources in for the tokens, which do bring standing, but watch out since we'll also need some for crafting. You can get the fish resources of Cambion Drift two more ways as far as I know. One is the crates all over the map, which is extremely useful, and the other way is by killing the infested near the pillars with the Requiem signs. To do that, go into the operator mode to activate them and then kill infested to get more resources. You can mine in the open worlds of Warframe, the Plains of Eidolon, Orb Vallis, and Cambion Drift. Every single open world has its miner, which will sell you blueprints to make usable materials out of the resources you gather from mining. You can then craft these resources into better resources and stuff like that, used for weapons, warframes, and just straight up decorations. For real, there is nothing to talk about here but where to get the resources and how to get them, so let's go and get our drills. Together there is 4 of them, no sun cutters, 3 of them actually, and 1 sunpoint drill. First, let's go over the sunpoint drill. You can get it from Smokefinger at Fortuna. He sells it for 2,500 Solaris standing, which is quite a low amount actually, even for the newbies. Also, a very important thing to remember is that this drill will mine literally everything, from the most common resource to the rarest ones. The sunpoint drill can also be upgraded with 2 upgrades. Range widget, which increases the beam's range, so you will be able to mine from further away, and the other one, the silencer widget, which will make the drill silent so the enemies don't hear you. The sunpoint plasma drill is far better than the no-sum cutters, which you can get from Old Man Sumbat from Cetus on Earth. There is 3 no-sum cutters you can get. Let's take a look at every single one of them up close. First one, the most basic one, just no-sum cutter. It can be bought for 500 Ostron standing right away, but it is extremely clunky. It is just unreliable, is unstable, and doesn't mine the rarer resources. The second one is the focused no-sum cutter. It is far more stable and reliable, but still can't mine the rarer resources, so yeah, you can get it for 750 Ostron standing at rank 2 with Ostrons. And the third drill, which is, I guess okay, is the advanced no-sum cutter. You get it at rank 4 with the Ostrons for 1000 standing and is quite stable. You can also mine the rarer resources from the Plains of Eidolon and Cambion Drift, but not the Orb Vallis. So yeah, if you need a good drill, go to Fortuna and buy it from Smokefingers. It is just better all around, slower, more stable, more reliable, and also mines the rarest resources from all the open worlds. Okay, now we got the drills, let's actually equip them and test them out. We equip the drill by going to your arsenal, going to the third bar, the circle icon, and choose gear. Then you need to get the drill you have in one of the free spaces, and then you are done. Now you can go outside and mine. We'll first go over how the mining works. So, the first thing you need to do is equip the drill you have from your gear. Then you just run around. At some point you will hear a beeping sound, which means there is a mineable resource nearby. On the left side of the screen there is also some rocks that show you the amount of mineable resources in your vicinity. And on the right side of the screen there is the range from you to the nearest resource vein. The closer you are, the more beeping you hear, and the lower number there is on the right. The two better drills will also display stone icons on your minimap, and also will outline them when you are not zoomed in. When you find a vein you want to mine, you need to point at the dot on the ore. There may be from 1 to 3. Then you need to try to hit the middle of the white brackets. If you do not hit the middle, it doesn't matter that much, but you will get lower amount of resources from that vein. Sometimes you will see a rich vein, which is just one line you can get. Getting this vein will give you a bonus resource besides the actual resource you would get. They are definitely worth going for because they are always rare. If you do have a double resource booster or a double drop chance booster, you are fortunate as well. The double resource booster will give you double the amount of materials you mine up, while the double drop chance booster will make the veins much more numerous and will also give you much more rich veins. A very important fact you need to know also is that the veins you find are shown only for you and not for others, so yeah, everyone has their own veins. Okay, we know how to mine now, but we can be more efficient than just running around and stuff, right? Well, yeah, of course you can. If you ask me, the best places to mine at are caves. They are scattered all around the map and finding them needs some exploration, so yeah, explore and mine. But for real, that is really all you need to know. Now let's actually mine. We are first going to take a look at the Plains of Eidolon. Here are two different colored veins. One is red, the ores, and the other one is blue, the gems. Red ones consist of Copran and Pyrrole, which are very common, Ferros, which is uncommon, and Auron, which is very rare. And the blue ones include Azurite, Devar, and Viridus, which are quite common, Crimson, which is uncommon, and Centurium and Nith, which are super rare. These resources can later be refined into their alloys or usable forms in the foundry with blueprints bought from Old Man Sumbat. You can also use them to get standing with the Ostrons. Next open world on the list are the Ore Valleys. Here we can find two more kinds of veins again, red ones for ores and blue ones for gems. The common resources in red veins are Exidite and Travelride, the uncommon one is Venerol and the rare one is Hesperon. The blue ones, however, consist of Phasmin, Goblite and Noctrol as the common ones, Amarast as the uncommon ones, and for the last two, Zodian and Thist as a rare. The blueprints to refine and cut the resources are found at Smokefinger at Fortuna. Now let's continue to the next open world, Cambion Drift. Here the veins are a bit different color, the ores are yellow while the gems are still blue. The ores consist of Adramalium and Bapholite as common, Namalon as uncommon, and Thomica as rare. The gems on the other hand are Dagonic, Tiamerite, and Hetzifron as common, Necrothene as uncommon, and the last two, Ambelos and Xenochrast as the rare ones. The crafting blueprints for these resources can be bought from Otak at Necrolisk. You can also buy Otak tokens from Otak with the mineable resources, so you need to remember that because you may need some in the future. Of course, there is also other ways to get these mineable resources for every open world. I won't go too in depth with them, but I will give you the basics you need to know for every single one of them. Let's first start with the Plains of Eidolon again. Plains of Eidolon have an enemy called the Thumper. There is 3 different varieties of them, Normal, Bull and Doma. Each one is a bit harder than the previous one, but yeah, that doesn't really matter. They spawn around during daytime at random by coming out of the ground. To kill them, you just need to destroy their vents on their legs, 4 of them to be precise, To battle them, be sure to equip an accurate weapon that you do not need to aim that much. A bonus would be something with radiation or blast damage or even both, since the thumpers are weak to those status types. When you destroy the thumpers, you will get a bunch of resources. 100 a thumper, more you will get. But that is it about the planes. Let's continue to the Orb Valleys again. One of the ways is to destroy crates. You will get quite a lot of common and some uncommon resources like that. The rarer ones though, not so much. For all the mining and also fishing resources, you will need to fight a boss. Orb Valleys has an enemy called the Exploiter Orb. You can get to it by going to the back room and talking to Solaris people there. The bad thing is, you need to be max rank with the Solaris United. I won't go into too much detail for the Exploiter Orb fight as well. It is really freaking hard if playing solo and is, in my opinion, one of the best boss fights in the game. I've made a guide on it before, so be sure to check it out if you are prepared for it. And now the last place we can get for mining resources, Cambion Drift. Your best friend for the common resources are the crates scattered all around the place. For real, you will get so many resources by just opening the crates. You will not need more for quite some time. And here at the Cambion Drift you can also do something called Requiem Towers, which are the best way to farming resources by far besides the common ones. For the common resources, you will most of the time need around 500. For the uncommon ones, you will need from 100 to 200. And for the rare ones, you will need 6. This, however, is not counting cosmetics. If you wish to make cosmetics and stuff like that, you will have to mine quite a lot more. Obviously, there is some you need more and some you need less, and some you need a huge freaking amount. For example, OTAC tokens require you to mine constantly to get more OTAC tokens. Well, it's just stonks for him. For the end, I just wish to summarize the whole video in a few sentences. First, you need to get a mining tool, then you need to go mining, and then you have resources. You need to buy the blueprints for cutting these resources and making alloys out of them at the respective miner of the plains or of the open world. And that is pretty much it. There obviously is some alternatives to mining, which are sometimes faster, sometimes just more gambly, sometimes slower. It doesn't really matter. Play what you want and not listen to other people that tell you what to do. I myself, for example, hate mining in the Orb Valleys. That's why I really like to kill the Exploiter Orb and get resources, plus you get some toroids, which are extremely good for Vox Solaris standing. The one you will need, so yeah. It is all up to you. Don't listen to other people if they tell you what to do. It is most of the time just going to get you burnt out, and that is it. Conservation is an action in which you, the Tenno, captures an animal to preserve it from greedy Grineer, Corpus, and infestation. At this point, it is probably one of the quickest ways to reach your daily standing limit. Sometimes it will take you only 10 to 15 minutes to max out all of them, depending on your mastery rank, but sometimes it will take maybe 20 max. Every single open world has its conservationist. The first one at Fortuna on Venus, called The Business. By talking to him and browsing his wares, we can get to essential things for you if you want to start being a conservationist yourself. First one is the Trank Rifle. You can also get that at Necrolisk on Deimos, but more on that later. The Trank Rifle is basically a gun that puts animals to sleep. The second thing we need is an Echo Lure. If you are here for the first time, you can probably get only the Pobber one, and maybe also Vermink, I am not sure. What I do know though is that the Echo Lures are infinite, so once you buy the Vermink Echo Lure, for example, once, you have it forever. You don't need to buy more than one. Okay, we have our Trank Rifle and our Echo Lures. Now what we need to do is equip our Trank in our gear. Go to your arsenal under the third section on top, the circle shape, then go to the gear and choose a free space. Click it and equip the Trank. You do not need to equip the Echo Lures, they are equipped automatically with the Trank, so conserve your space as well. For real, with this we are actually set to go out into the Orb Valleys and search for the snowy Christmas critters. But I do want to go over something else. The business also sells something called pheromone synthesizers for each animal. Contrary to the Echo Lure, this one is not infinite, but it does help quite a lot. The main point of using these is to get the rare variants of the animal. There is 3 of each ranging in rarity and standing they give. I will show you how to use the pheromone synthesizer later, but now let's go outside and catch us some critters. Okay, we are outside. If we want to catch ourselves some critters, we first need to equip our trank from our gear. Now that we've done that, we need to hold the M button to open our map. This will show us some icons that resemble paws, and these are the locations of the animals. So let's just go to one. When you come to the location, you will see a piece of scat, which are the start to every animal search. By pressing X, footprints will appear on the ground, so we just need to follow them. At some point you will find a call point for the animal. Now you need to equip your trank again and select the echo lure you need. You do that by pressing the 2 button. If you want to get the rarer kind of the animal, you can at this point also use the pheromone synthesizer by holding the 3 button, but that is not mandatory. Now we will call the animal. First you just hold the left mouse button and mimic the animal sound. The animal will call back in a moment. Okay, so the animal called back. We need to do that again now, call the animal, and follow the area between the 2 white lines. Right after you call it, hide and equip your trank again by pressing 1. By aiming down sides, you will be able to see an orange silhouette of the animal, so the only thing you need to do now is trank it. That's it. When it is tranked, go to it and press the X button, and you're done. Every single animal behaves differently and may need multiple shots to fall asleep, if it is one of the same rarity. I will tell you everything as we go, but now let's start with the first one, Pobber. Pobbers are usually found in the groups of 3. They are shy and will run away as soon as they see you or the corpus roaming around the area. Only 1 shot will do to put them to sleep. There is 3 different varieties, Sunny, Delicate, and Subterranean. The next animal on the list is Vermink, a fox-like creature that is always alone. 1 shot is enough to put them to sleep. The varieties are as follows: White-breasted, Dusky-headed, and Red-crested. The next animal is the one you really need to watch out for, Bolarola. This animal does only take 1 shot to put to sleep, but you do need to shoot it in its belly. Most of the time Bolarola goes into a ball and then shows its belly, so you need to shoot it then. If you miss the belly, it won't fall asleep. The varieties of it are Spotted, Black-banded, and Thorny. The next animal is insanely ugly, a Horask. It is not only insanely ugly, but it also has very bad farts. While you look for it and follow the footprints, you need to watch out for its scat. It is toxic and may actually kill you if you step on it. Catching a Horask is also really hard. It will dig underground and at some point peek out to the surface with its head. That's the time to act. I suggest you to go somewhere high to make a successful shot. They only need 1. The varieties of it are Dappled, Swimmer, and Stormer. On top of mushrooms there are birds, flying around and being a nuisance to catch. These birds are Sawgauss. They most of the time reside on top of mushrooms, so be sure to look up. 1 shot is enough to catch them. The varieties of them are Flossy, Alpine Monitor, and Frog-mouthed. The next animal is Stover. Stovers are always found in the caves and are extremely resilient to sleep. They need up to 3 shots to lay down. If they spot you, they will attack you and then escape. The varieties of them are Sentinel, Fuming Dax, and Fire-veined. The last animal on the list is a Kubrodon, a Venus counterpart of our Kubros. They, same as Stovers, are hard to catch, taking up to 3 shots to fall asleep. They will also try to kill you if they see you, so watch the hell out. The varieties of them are Brindle, Valis, and Incarnadine. That is all the animals from the ore valleys. By capturing them, you will get loads of standing and also a ton of tags. 1 for a bad capture, 2 for a good one, and 3 for perfect one. Double resource booster also works on them, so just double the amount we should get. Now let's continue to the plains of Eidolon and their conservation master, our boy Master Tesoni. He rocks a Kondrak on his hand and is accompanied by a massive Kavat. Tesoni, which I will refer to as Mr. T from this point forward, does not sell the Trank Rifle, but does sell Echolures and Pheromone Synthesizers for the animals on the plains. The conservation mechanics on the plains do work a bit differently than the ore valleys. Here most of the animals will actually spawn outside of the Echolure callings, which means you might actually see them roaming around the plains. For real, we do not have anything else to say about Mr. T here, so let's just go to the animals on the plains. First we will go over the Echolure callings. First animal we have is a Quokka, a very ugly mouse if you ask me. It most of the time is accompanied by 2 other Quokkas, but not always. One shot will put it to sleep. The varieties we have are Plains, Ashen, and Ghost. They do drop Quokka spines if killed, so yeah, a resource you can get. The next animal is a Kondrak. Kondraks will fly to the point of the call, so watch out for them when they drop down, just look up. One shot will make it crash. The varieties we have are Common, Rogue, and Emperor. You can get Kondrak feathers from them, so that is very good, and they are easy to kill, so yeah. The next animal is a Murgu, a very freaking hard animal to catch. It flies into the call point and is very small. Watch the sky and you will find it sooner or later. One shot will make it crash. Varieties of Murgu are Coastal, Woodland, and Splendid. The last animal we can catch on the plains are Vaska Kavats, vampire kitties that will drink your blood and put holes in your soul. Their piercing eyes. When you call them with the Echo Lure, they will just wander in. They are also highly hostile, so you better watch out. For real, they are not even afraid of the Eidolon terrorist. The varieties we have are Ostia, Bao, and Nephil. Those are all 4 animal types on the plains, so you can either try to catch them by using Echo Lures, or you might try to catch them while they are roaming around. Let me show you something. This spot on the map next to the ocean is one of the best and easiest spots to find an abundance of animals. Just fly around with your Archwing and watch out for the orange silhouettes. Most of the time there will be a group of animals, and if you are lucky, you can get half of your daily standing by pulling off a few good shots. At daytime you'll find Kondraks and Quokka, and at nighttime you'll find Vaska Kavats and Quokka. Sadly, there is no reliable way to find Murgus though, so Echolures it is. Okay, that's it for the plains critters. Now let's go to our last place, Cambion Drift, the infested hellhole. Here at the Necrolisc, our master is the Sun. He once again sells all the Echolures and Pheromone Synthesizers, and also the Trank Rifle if you skipped Fortuna for some reason. A very important aspect of this hunt is the time. Some species of the animal will only appear around Fas and some around Vom, the 2 worms that are always fighting. I will tell you the details you need. Cambion Drift has its share of infested animals, so let's take a look. First at those that need Echolures, and then the ones that don't. Vulpaphylas are infested variety of Kavats. They also behave like them by just walking to the call point. Every species of Vulpaphyla needs to be tranked 2 or 3 times, so yeah, be swift. There is 3 kinds of Vulpaphyla: Sly at any time, Crescent during Vom, and Panzer during Fas. The second animal we have on the list are the Predicites, the Kubros of Deimos. Just like the Vulpaphylas, they will just come to the call point, trank them 2 or 3 times depending on the variety, and you will be okay. If they see you, they might attack you, contrary to Vulpaphylas. There's 3 kinds of them: Vizier at any time, Pharaoh during Fas, and Medjay during Vom. The next one is Avikea, the Murgu of Deimos. They will fly above the call point and are quite hard to spot, just because of all the spores flying around. But don't worry, one shot with the tranq will bring them down. Their varieties are Common, Anytime, Sporile, during Voam, and Viscid, during Phas. The cutest of the animals from Deimos, if you ask me, are the Cryptolexes. They will normally come in groups and will attack you even though they are very small. One tranq shot and it will put them down to sleep. The nice thing about these guys is that every variety appears at any time. The kinds of Cryptolexes are Burrowing, Septic, and Caustic. And the last animal we can call with the Echo Lure are the Undazoas, a mess to keep it short. They will just walk into the call point and will scream at you if you are too close to them. Their screams are very scary but also quite soothing. One shot or two shots, depending on the variety, will put them to sleep. There is 3 different kinds of it: Umber, Anytime, Vaporous during Voam, and Howler during Phas. Now let's take a look at the ones that are only found in the nature, Velocipods and Nexiferas. For these ones, the time does not matter at all, so you can get them all the time in any variety. The Velocipods are the big mosquitoes flying around the drift, which you can ride as a skateboard. They will most of the time spawn everywhere but the map boundaries and caves, so yeah, look for them in the middle. I suggest you to capture them while doing the bounties, but the bounty should be your first priority. Don't be a dick to your team. If you want to tranq them, one tranq and it is done. There is 3 varieties of them: green, purple, and white. And the last animal, Nexifera, is a cave dweller. Most of the time you will see it smashing Cryptolexes into a pool of goo. To lure the Nexifera out, you need to run over the green pool and wait till Nexifera drops down. It will then slowly go up again, and that's the time to shoot. Its weak spot is the top half of its body. The varieties of Nexifera are Viridian, Scarlet, and Amethyst. That is it about the animals of the Cambion Drift, but there is some more tips I'm going to give you if you want to maximize your efficiency on Cambion Drift. Flying around the edge of the map is probably one of the best ways to find Predicites, Vulpaphylas, Cryptolexes, and Aviceas. Just fly around and look with the tranq. Sometimes you will find an infested patrol, and sometimes you will just find animals. Most of the time they will be in groups as well, which is great. A very important detail I shouldn't skip out on is the weakened stat on the Predicites and Vulpaphylas. If the Predicite or the Vulpaphyla is damaged by an infested unit and is then captured, it will become weakened. This can be done by just putting the animal to sleep and then luring infested to it, which is, very inhumane, but it does work. The weakened variety of the animal will give you the animal tags and the animal itself. You can then go back to the sun and turn this animal into your companion. The animal tags from Cambion Drift animals are used as a currency with the sun. He exchanges them for sun tokens, which are actually quite nice to get. The other animal tags you get from the plains of Eidolon and Orvalis are more or less useless, but you can't get floofs from the Conservation Masters, which is always good. You can do that with the Cambion Drift animals as well. The floofs are very nice looking and super cute, so I, the Great Quad, decided to do some more work and make a quick compilation I will also share some tips with you. First is the daily standing farming. Animal conservation is one of the quickest ways to max your standing with the Syndicate. It takes me to reach my daily standing cap on both Orvalis and Plains of Eidolon together in 10 to 15 minutes, give or take a few minutes depending on some luck. And the last tip is using either Equinox or Evara to put the animals to sleep instead of the Trank Rifle. At first this may sound very cool, but it is not as easy as it may sound. The abilities that put animals to sleep only work at the quarter of their max efficiency. So if you have Evara modded for 20 seconds, animal will fall asleep for only 5 seconds. The effect if you put the animal to sleep again will be reduced even further. Also, a very important tip are the tags and the double resource booster again. They are doubled, so if you make a bat capture you will get 2, normal 4 and perfect 6. Fluff army, let's go. So if you don't know what thumpers are, they are big Grineer machines with 4 legs and a lot of cannons. They are simultaneously one of the best sources of numerous resources, like things you would get from fishing or mining on the Plains of Eidolon. However, let's start with how to actually find them. They spawn on the Plains of Eidolon and only at daytime. There are 3 kinds, normal one, bull kind and doma kind, each being slightly beefier and bigger version than the last one. To find them you only need to travel around the plains. Most of the maps you would find anywhere on the internet of thumper locations are good, but they are not accurate at all, not showing all the locations, so just get into your Archwing and fly or run around the Plains of Eidolon. The main thing is, more you get away from the gates, the harder version of thumper you will find, and this map summarizes it quite nicely. A quick heads up for you should also be Grineer ships, Darragons and Ghoul nets that spawn, because that means the location you're currently at doesn't have any thumper in the ground, so it is better to move somewhere else. But when you actually find a thumper you will definitely hear it or see it because of the noise it makes. Quite loud if I may add. Now there is the hard part, taking it down. It is extremely hard for people who want to play solo, but it is manageable. The first thing you need to do is destroy a plate on one of their 4 legs. After that you need to shoot the spots that were previously covered by those plates, complete that 4 times and you're done. The best weapon I have found so far are kit guns. They just melt them like butter, specifically the ones with a tomb finger chamber. Why kit guns? Well, because they're easily accessible to all players. Another weapon for more advanced players is Rubedo Prime, which requires some quick reflexes, but it is manageable. But if you don't have any weapons at all, you should definitely use ones that deal radiation damage, which is the Thumper's weakness. Just combine the mods that are fire and electricity and that's it. Also, if you're a starter, I don't want you to use anything that requires accuracy because this fight is very quick. That's just a tip. To what Warframe you should use, I would recommend Chroma for a huge amount of damage or Nova for stopping them with her 4th ability, but to be real, all Warframes will do considering that you don't get overwhelmed with other Grineer troops. If you don't know what you can also get with destroying Thumpers, it is a melee weapon called Korudo. Which I haven't tested yet because I can't get it, so I leave that to you. Also, a nice tip for you guys is this: if you go hunting thumpers with a bounty selected, you will get a harder version of the thumper everywhere on the map, so it is easier to get Doma thumpers that way. And besides that, if you want to play solo, having some ammo restores makes it a lot easier to stay in action, because they take a humongous beating to get destroyed. Requiem towers are only found in the Cambion Drift, the open world of Deimos. They are randomly generated and there's a few spots you can find them, but I myself wouldn't really want to remember them just because you don't need that many resources. For real, if you find one, just do it. You don't really want to miss out on a huge amount of loot. They look like broken towers that just stand there and do nothing. But there is one way to rebuild them and get resources. Requiem towers require you to go into your operator form and shoot the reactive crystals in the middle. At this point the tower will be built and there will be infested that spawn all around. Killing the infested with the amp will give you resources from mining and fishing on Deimos, but not every time. There is 8 symbols that could be on top of the tower, which dictate how you need to kill the infested, and we will look at every single one of them in detail right now. First one is Vom, probably the easiest tower to farm resources from. With this one you just need to kill the enemies that are inside the circle around the tower. That's it. The second one is Riss. With this one you will have to be a little patient. The tower will blind the enemies in its vicinity over a period of time multiple times. You can see the enemies that are blinded by either being in one place, or there's little sparkles that are all around them pretty much. When they are actually blinded, you need to kill them, but you can also kill them if they were blinded before and are not blind anymore. The third symbol, Yahoo, is one of the hardest ones, I'd say. It makes a circle around it, pushing enemies outside. You have to kill the enemies while they are in the circle and are being repelled. This symbol will test your speed with the amp. The fourth symbol, Fast, will make some of the enemies convert for a couple of seconds to your side and they will attack other enemies. It will do that periodically by emitting a boom. When it does, some of the enemies will be marked by glowing white. You will get the resources by either the marked infested dying or killing the infested that were marked after they convert to baddies again. The fifth symbol is Kra. This symbol is pretty cool. It slows down enemies, marking them with white overcoat. Killing the enemies will get you resources. It is a pretty easy one. Sixth one is Netra, probably one of the worst symbols you can find. It will spawn 2 Deimos tendril drones every 10 seconds or so, I don't know, and only the enemies that are killed by the Deimos tendril drones will give you resources. For real, I advise you to just skip this one 100% of the time. The AI is abysmal and the damage the drones deal is even worse. The seventh symbol is Loch, another one you should avoid if you ask me. This tower will kill the enemies by itself by slashing them. The particle effects are very cool if you ask me, but they are so underpowered, it is just worthless to stand around. Just try to find another tower. And now the last, the 8th symbol, Zata symbol, is literally a casino of all the signs. It literally just picks one of the 7 given signs before, and that's it. I don't know why, but this one seems a bit buggy sometimes, not dropping resources even if doing the right objective, so I myself just started and look if I'm doing the right thing. If the resources don't drop, I just find another tower. But yeah, that's actually it. Now, it's time to give you some tips, I guess. Remembering the symbols is just stupid. Don't try to learn what to do at each symbol. I myself only know which one is Vom because it is the easiest one to use. If I'm not sure what the symbol will do, I just start up the tower and look if it's the one I like. If it isn't, I just leave. The second tip is probably a no-brainer for most of us, but just in case, avoid Netra and Loch symbols, the ones that either spawn the Deimos tendril drones or attack the infested with cool particle effects. They might look hip and cool, but they suck all the ass. The third tip is probably the best one I will give. Doing the Deimos Arcana Isobalt bounties is one of the best ways to get lots of resources, even the rare ones. If you're lucky, you might get a Vom symbol right next to a summon pod or something, which means endless flow of enemies and therefore never-ending resources for you. This actually is not that rare even, so if you just want to stock up, try doing the Isobalt bounties, and yeah. I myself love to call these towers jackpots, just because they are so freaking insanely good. As I said in the beginning, just farming the towers will give you so many resources, you will not need to farm for a long time. Plus, it gives you an alternative to fishing and mining, which many people do not like for some reason. That's actually it. The Requiem Towers are a whole freaking treasury of fish guts and shiny rocks, just in the open, so be sure to loot them if you can. It will be much easier to get Thaumica and Necrothene this way. I myself got most of it this way, and I am building quite a storage for the future updates, so no need for more materials, I guess. First, we will go over the resources you can find all around the plains: Iridite, Maprico, Grogdrule, and Nisselpod. They all have deposits of their own and are found all over the plains. Iridite's deposit looks like this. You may find it inside the marked area of the map. Finding it should not be a problem to you, especially if you're farming them during the bounties. It is also quite nifty to know that it sometimes drops 1 and sometimes 5, depending on the level of bounty you play. So higher the bounty level, higher the drops of Iridite. The next one is Maprico fruit. The deposit looks like this and always drops 4 Maprico fruits when destroyed. For real, you will never need that many to intentionally go farming them. Get them once and that is it. The next resource is Grogdrule. It is a resource found only in Grineer camps and other areas that Grineer roam about. A barrel of Grogdrule looks like this. You will get up to 5 Grogdrule depending on the bounty level you play at, so higher the bounty, more the Grogdrule. And the last resource, Nisselpods. They're only found on the hills of the plains of Eidolon. I marked them on the map, there is only 2 of them, so there is really no way to miss them. The deposits look like this and always yield 5 Nisselpods. Very easy to farm them. We are now done with the common resources, so now let's go to the bit less common ones. Cetus Wisps, a resource that may be quite hard to get if you don't know what you are doing. They can be used for Amp and Zop parts, plus 2 Warframes, Revenant, and Gara, but enough of chit chat, let's just go farming them. Cetus Wisps can be found flying around smaller bodies of water at any time. During daytime there will be around 4 out there, but they are much more common at nighttime, about 2 more times, so if you can go hunt them, just go during night. So here is a wisp on the shoreline, just flying there, menacingly, and what you need to do is run to it and pick it up. They can actually escape and disappear, so you need to be very quick. I myself recommend using Loot Radar mods such as Loot Radar and Thieves Wit for your Warframe, and also Animal Instinct for your Companion or Sentinel. You can see the wisps as little crates just like other loot on your minimap. If you also do have one, use the Archwing and fly around the plains. A lot of people love to use its cell and its third ability to suck the wisps in from afar. But for real, it doesn't matter if you have the normal Odonator Archwing. You will be basically the same speed. Obviously, you can also go look for them on foot, but it is just not recommended because it takes so long. The way most of the people like to take is right now on the map by flying around the shorelines that are inland, so not the ocean ones. You will most of the time get 1 or 2 during daytime and 3 and 4 during nighttime. For real, this is the quickest and easiest way there is. There is also 2 other ways, however. First one is by buying them from Quill Onco at Cetus for 2000 Quill standing, which I do not recommend at all. It will take you much longer to get such amount of standing than just flying around collecting wisps on the plains. And also there is the second way, as I said, by doing the bounties on the plains of Eidolon, specifically tier 4 and 5, plus some ghoul bounties when they come by, also at the plains. These wisps should only be a bonus to you and not a farming priority. For some reason you may actually get them from the Conclave matches as well, which I myself did not expect because they are just no. The next resource is Breath of the Eidolon, which can only be obtained from stage 1, 2, 3 and 4 of the tier 5 and 6 bounties found at Konzu. This is the only way, but don't forget you also get a bunch of endo, relics and also Eidolon lenses this way, so it is extremely nice. There is 2 more resources which you can only get from specific animals. One is Quaka Spinal Claw and the other ones are the Kondrak Wings. Quackas are mice. You can find them randomly spawn all around the plains at any time. Just kill them and that is it. You will get lots of Quacka spinal claws this way. There is also Kondrok wings, which can only be found from Kondroks. There are huge birds found all around the plains during daytime mostly, but rarely at nighttime. Kill them and get the wings. The next batch of resources comes from the Eidolons of the plains. I myself have thought about making a guide about the whole Eidolon hunt, but for real, community is really toxic when it comes to these. If you do not have a very specific build, you will get smacked because a minority of people are dicks. But now let's go to the resource you can find. There is a lot of them. First one are Eidolon shards, which are useless for crafting, but you will need some to sacrifice for the quills in order to rank up. You will get 1, 3 or 5 Eidolon shards depending on which Eidolon you capture or kill, it doesn't matter. The next kind of shard is the Brilliant Eidolon shard. To get this one, you will need to capture the Eidolons. The Terrorist will drop 1, Ganchulist also 1, and the Hydrolist 3, again if captured. And the last type of shards, Radiant Eidolon shard. Again, you will only get them if Eidolons are captured. The Terrorist will drop none, the Ganchulist will drop 1, and the Hydrolist will drop 2 if captured, not killed. While the normal Eidolon shards have almost no use despite the quill rank up, the Brilliant and Radiant Eidolon shards do have them. They can be converted into focus. Just go to your operator and choose focus conversion on the bottom right. You may also unbind some of the abilities to use them in your operator builds. And now the last 3 resources of the plains, the Sentient Cores. Intact Sentient Cores drop from the Vonvalist and the Eidolons. Better the target, more you will get. I also suggest you to capture the Eidolons, not kill them. This will yield far more of the Sentient Cores. Exceptional Sentient Cores drop from the destroyed Eidolon joints. They can also be crafted, but for real, just don't. They are too expensive if you ask me. And the last are the Flawless Sentient Cores. They are very good to have. Get more depending on the Eidolon you kill or capture. Capture is obviously far better. You will need the cores for crafting, upgrading your rank with the quills, and also quill standing. The amount of standing you get per every sentient core is on the screen right now. First we'll look at the 2 resources you can find around the big mushrooms, Mitocardia Spores and Gorgaricus Spores. Mitocardia Spores are deposits you can find on the ground. They look like this. They are a little bit purple than the other mushroom stuff around it. When they are destroyed, they will drop 2 Mitocardia Spores. On the other hand, Gorgaricus Spores are the hanging sacks on the mushrooms. They look like this. When destroyed, they drop 3 Gorgaricus Spores. They are found all around the Orvalis, so finding them really should not be a problem. The next resource are Tepa nodules. They are found in the caves of Orvalis and look like this. When destroyed, they yield 5 Tepa nodules, so you will get a lot of them very quickly. And the last resource you can easily find is the Thermal Sludge. The container for it is only found at Corpus outposts all over the Orvalis. The container of thermal sludge looks like this and usually drops 1 thermal sludge or more depending on the bounty level you're playing. But yeah, that is it. All 4 of the previous resources we mentioned are also found in the crates, like the normal Corpus crates in the Orvalis, so just destroying every single crate while doing the bounties and stuff like that is amazing and I recommend it. The next resource on the list is Diluted Thermia, a resource only obtainable from Thermia Fractures event. Thermia Fractures is an event going on in Warframe every few weeks in the Orvalis on Venus. For this event, I recommend you to take your best weapons and, if you can, have one modded for viral and electricity damage and the other one for radiation damage. The first one is going to be used against the human corpus and the robotics, and the other one is going to be used for the arachnoids. If the actual event is going on, you will see it by opening your star chart and checking the leftmost symbol in the upper right corner. We will check the event rewards later, but just to let you know, if you don't complete the event in one cycle, you can continue in the next one because your progress is actually saved. And you also get the rewards only once, so don't sell your Optic or Vandal or something. But yeah, let's continue. When the event is going on, the Orb Vallis will be littered with Thermia fractures, geysers of yellowish liquid that is actually quite dangerous, but not for you. What you need to do is close them up, but to do so you will need to find some coolant canisters, which is pretty easy to find. Coolant canisters are dropped from coolant arachnoids, following the Exploiter Orb, which is usually around the Temple of Graphet. When you have the canisters, find one of the fractures and put the coolant canister in it. You may put up to 4 canisters into a fracture, but this will make it a bit more difficult for you, so if you're not able to eliminate many corpus at once, be sure to not do that. We will go over the difficulties later. Every Thermia fracture will take you from 3 minutes if you have 1 coolant canisters in it, to 5 minutes and a half if you have all 4. The objective now is only one thing: protect the canisters until the extraction of Thermia is done. When done, the canisters will be filled up to 1/4 of its capacity, which means you have to fill 4 in total. So if you bring 4 canisters, you will at the end get only 1 full canister. You will get 1 diluted Thermia when a canister is full. And for example, if you bring 3, you will get only 1 with 3/4 of Thermia in it. I am not sure why, but the canisters combine as well, so if you bring 3 for example, and fill them up, you get 3/4 of Thermia, and then you get just 1, that 3/4 one, into one other fracture, you then get a full one. I am not sure why, but this is just how it works. You will get 1 diluted Thermia when a canister is full. You may ask yourself what the diluted Thermia is actually for, and to keep it brief, it is required for a boss fight against the Exploiter Orb. A very important tip to give you here as well is that you can also get double the amount of diluted Thermia if you have a double resource booster or the Vaska Kavat. Okay, now let's talk about the difficulty we mentioned before. The difficulty is depending on only one thing: the amount of canisters in a fracture. The events that could happen are known as burps. They happen consistently while you defend the canisters, so you really need to watch out. If you have only 1 canister in the fracture, you will from time to time get some more Eximus units around you, or the fracture may briefly spawn a sudden nullifier bubble, disrupting your abilities. If you have 2 canisters inside the fracture, the enemy alert level may be increased, and from time to time there might also be some thermic arachnoids attacking you, which do some heat damage and are actually not that hard to deal with, but they will destroy your canisters, so you really need to watch out for those. And the last, if you have 3 canisters or more, the bursts that may happen are sudden radiation spike, which will make you unable to revive allies and will make you less accurate for a short amount of time, and another burp which just increases the amount of damage enemies deal. I also want to give you a few tips from my experience. One is that the enemies will mostly attack you and not the canister. There will be some melee enemies, specifically melee, not shooting ones, that will attack the canister. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. The second tip is that if you are looking for toroids, you should really go and search for this fracture. It might be there, it might not, but you will get quite a lot of toroids because of it. I don't know why, but they just wanted 1 fracture here, so take advantage of it. And the last tip, Thermia fractures are actually one of the best ways to rank up your Necromech. Toroids, resources you will need a lot of. They're used for a couple of things, mainly as standing for Vox Solaris, and also making some weapons, Warframes and cosmetics. But yeah, let's just see the kinds of toroids first. There is 2 kinds, all of them found in the Orb Vallis on Venus. The first ones are normal toroids and the second ones are boss toroids, but first let's go over the normal ones. There is 3 kinds of them: Vega, Calda and Sola toroids, and there is a few ways to get them. First one is from the enemies at specific locations. Vega toroids are dropped from enemies at the spaceport, Calda toroids are dropped from enemies at enrichment labs, and Sola toroids are dropped from the enemies at the Temple of Prophet. The main way I myself farm toroids is by going inside any of the places and leaving enemies alive until one of them places down the alert beacon. Then I just kill everyone that comes till the alert level is max, and then I go to a different location. The main reason behind that is that the enemies just stop spawning at alert level 4 for some reason. So yeah, you are kind of forced to do that. There is also some difference between the locations regarding the enemy spawn rates. I myself love the enrichment labs just because they are not that complex. You can just stay in one hallway and play the normal Warframe experience pretty much. The Temple of Prophet is divided in two spaces, the above one and the below one, which means enemies may just stop spawning at some point if you are underground, for example, because they will spawn above. And the spaceport is just huge, which is not the greatest of things, but you will get more than enough Vega toroids there. Obviously, farming toroids with a squad is suggested. The more enemies there is, the more you will get. The drop rate of toroids is 2% from any enemy that is in the locations we mentioned before, so farming a few shouldn't be that hard to you. Now let's go to the second way to get toroids, and that is by killing Rachnoids, the robotic spiders that are all around the Orb Vallis when playing bounties. The green ones will drop Vega toroids, the orange ones the Calda toroids, and the big green ones the Sola toroids. These toroids should be more of a bonus. There is no reliable way again actually farming these Rachnoids. So yeah, let's go to the third way. The third way is looking for the toroids in the caves of Orb Vallis. There is a chance you get toroids this way, but you will need to remember the cave spots and fly around for a long time because the toroids might not spawn at all. I myself would not advise farming toroids this way just because it is boring as frick. It is much more fun to kill enemies and get other resources by the side. The fourth way is getting the toroids from heists, which you can find in the back room at Bis and Utico. To access the heist, you actually have to be rank 5 with Solaris United, which is a major turnoff for most of the people. The drop chance of toroids per stage is actually 12.5%, which is not that bad, but if you are actually farming them, don't do it. Consider them a bonus. And that is actually it for the normal toroids. They are quite easy to get, you just need to be prepared, and that is it. Now we will take a look at the boss toroids we mentioned before, Charisma toroids and Lazulite toroids. You need to reach a few requirements before you can actually defeat the Prophet Taker. The first one is being rank 5 with Solaris United, and you also need to know Vox Solaris in the back room of Fortuna. You also need to do a few bounties regarding the Prophet Taker. All of them are found at Utico and Biz in the back room as well. These 4 bounties are mostly the lore and explanation of how the Prophet Taker works, but you do not need to pay attention to them if you don't want to. The 4th bounty is the actual Prophet Taker fight, and just so you know, I will be calling Prophet Taker P from now on, just so I don't repeat myself all the time. The second requirement is a Gravimag on your Argon or a Necromech. If you do not have a good Argon though, you will not most likely, but absolutely fail. Okay, we now know what we need to do to fight him and where to find them, so now let's talk about how to destroy him. There is a couple of things you need to know. One are the phases of the fight, and the other one is preparation. We will go over the latter one first. P has Sentient Adaptive Shielding, which means it can only be damaged by one specific status type at a time. The status type is displayed in the middle of its forehead. It is extremely easy to spot, to say the least. There is a way to change this status type as well, but more on that later. There is 13 status types in Warframe: Impact, Puncture, Slash, Heat, Cold, Electricity, Toxin, Blast, Corrosive, Gas, Magnetic, Radiation, and Viral. My recommendation is to mod for at least 6 or 8 status types. The weapons you should focus on should have high damage output, fast fire rate, as much ammo as they can carry, or even better, a recharging battery, and for the last, they should do damage from far away, so as little fall off as possible or none, even better. What really matters on your weapons is not total damage this time, but specifically the status damage you want. For example, my Tombfinger Kit Gun does not do much puncture damage, so I will either mod it for some other damage type as well, or I'm just going to leave puncture out of my rotation. I really hate making these kinds of guides because of all the speculation of which weapons people have and can afford, plus the mods they have, so you will need to really sit down and prepare your arsenal and find the right combination of weapons and status types. Don't forget that you, besides the primary and secondary weapon, also have the Arch Gun or even a melee weapon if you dare to come near the orb. Also, if using the Necromech, you have the Exalted Blade or even the Aquabex. As far as I know, almost every Argon is good enough as far as you mod it for radiation damage, which is the best to use against Prophet Taker. My arsenal usually consists of Xaku with emphasis on impact damage and viral damage, secondary Tomb Finger Kit Gun with emphasis on corrosive, and melee Redeemer Prime or normal one with emphasis on gas, magnetic, and blast damage, and an Argon for toxin and radiation damage, so I have 9 status types out of 13, which is quite good, but you do not need that many. Now let's switch over to Warframes. There is 2 types if you ask me, the ones that dare to go melee and the ones that don't. Most of the time you will need to focus on surviving the attacks of the orb by just running around and jumping all the time. I myself prefer to use very survivable Warframes such as Inaros, Chroma, Oberon, Limbo, Rhino, Neja, and I think that's actually it. Yeah, P hits really hard. But I think that is actually it about the preparation, so let's just continue to the Prophet Taker Destruction Heist, the 4th bounty. The first thing you need to do is just go outside and find P somewhere in the Vallis. When you get to her, the first thing you need to destroy are her shields. Again, the status type with which you can destroy the shields is on her forehead. Now this is very important. If you do not have the specific status type that is on her forehead, you can shoot her with your Operator Amp. This will change the status type it is damaged with. When you shoot it with the amp, P's shields have a 5-second cooldown in which you can't change the shields, but again, you can do it right away after the 5 seconds. After you destroy her shields for the first time, you then need to destroy her 4 legs with an Argon, either the Gravimag one or the Necromech one. I myself suggest you to use a Necromech if you can, even though some may suggest against it. Why I do that is specifically because of the ammo. It recharges on the Necromech, while the Argons have a long ass cooldown. When you destroy the 4 legs with an Argon, you need to destroy P's head. When you do that, he will shoot out a few pylons that again need to be destroyed. Just run around and melee them, that is pretty quick. When you destroy the pylons, you need to again destroy her legs and head, and at this point you will repeat the same procedure again as the beginning, destroy the shields, then legs, and then pylons. But here now is the hard part. After you destroy the pylons for the second time, there will be a 5-minute countdown. In those 5 minutes, you again need to destroy her shields, then her legs, and head again, and then you're finally done. I know I might have gotten over this a bit too quickly, but for real, the fight is not that complicated. Try to keep your distance and everything should be a-okay. After you destroy P's head for the last time, she will murmur a few words and then drop the loot. Pick these resources up and as soon as possible run as far away as you can, because P is literally a nuke going off in the Vallis. The loot you will get is 1 Charisma Toroid, 3 Medical Depth Bonds, 2 Advances Depth Bonds, and 1 Familial Depth Bond. These resources are actually doubled if you have the double resource booster, so the more you know. The Charisma Toroids are required to rank up to rank 5 of Vox Solaris, and are also quite nice to have as a standing boost, even though farming lesser Toroids is much better if you ask me. Charisma Toroids are also used to craft Hildrin's signature weapon Larkspur, a freaking amazing Argon that spews plasma at your enemies. It is extremely fun to play with. There is also a hefty amount of credits you will get by destroying P, not super huge, but it is quite nice. The table of heist rewards is on the screen right now. Most of the people are probably going for Critical Focus, which is probably one of the must-have mods on your Argon, giving you 60% critical chance when aiming, plus 60% damage. Tell me that isn't cool. That is actually it. For the last segment, I just want to give you a few tips as well. First one is solo play. Do not attempt it if you do not have good weapons and know exactly what you are doing. It is a waste of time for real. Try doing the heist in a public match at least. It will probably not be easier to destroy P, but it will be much more survivable for you. The second tip is about the enemies that are present during the fight. Most of the time they will launch at you and stagger you. This is why movement is extremely important. What is also important should be your instinct actually, destroying the alert beacons, even though many people just forget that. you will easily become overwhelmed and just die. The third tip, again, the resources. If you have a double resource booster, this will give you 2 Charisma Toroids and double the Dep bonds you get normally, which is extremely cool if you're just in for both Solaris United and Vox Solaris standing. The fourth tip should also be common sense. If you play in a public match, do not change peace shields with your amp if you do not have the specific damage type. Some other person might have it and might actually focus for that type, so try not to be a dick. I went apeshit a couple of times when a person was either trolling or being selfish, so yeah, just don't be a freaking dick. The only thing you will do with this is just get reported and probably banned if you do this too much. If you get called out, just freaking apologize. If you won't, you will look like an arrogant son of a bitch. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Lazurite Toroid. This Toroid is even better, giving you 12,000 standing. Again, you just get it by destroying the Exploiter Orb, a hard boss to fight, which is also my favorite one. It will take quite a lot of skill to actually defeat it, so you really need to prepare for this one. We will first go over how to actually get to it, then how to initiate the fight, and then how to destroy it, and at the end, we'll just look at her drops, but as I said, first, how to actually get to her. To initiate a fight with the Exploiter Orb, there are 2 requirements. First one is quite easy, and that is Diluted Thermia, a resource you can get by closing Thermia fractures. The second requirement is being rank 5 with Solaris United, and you also need to know where Vox Solaris is. It's in the back room of Fortuna. And the third, which is not a requirement, but a weapon loadout you need. When modding your weapons, try to mod them for either huge amounts of toxin damage or radiation and magnetic damage. Most of the actual fight will be against the coolant arachnoids, which are weak to exactly those 3 status types. If you also bring a weapon that doesn't have to be too precise but does a huge amount of total damage and has a decent fire rate, be sure to mod it for corrosive damage. We will use that against the Exploiter Orb herself. For Warframe, I would choose any that are focused on survivability, just because damage the Exploiter Orb does is immense. That is if you become staggered in the open and, well, you're dead then. Also, you need to be very careful of these small arachnoids, which I right now forgot how they are named, but they deal a lot of slash damage, so you need to prepare for that as well. And those are actually all the requirements. When you reach all of those requirements, you can then go into the back room to the table where Yudico and Business are, slam on it with your hands and demand you want to fight the Exploiter Orb in a heist. Yeah, just click on the bounty and go outside. When outside, you will need to go to Deck 12, the location where Solaris United once thrived, but no more. It is located on the right side of the map in a cave. It is quite hard to spot it at first, but once you find it once, it's quite easy. Go inside the cave and through the gates, and then you're in the destroyed city. There, you will find nothing but a few levers at the end left side of Deck 12, where the vent kits used to be. Pressing X on the Thermia condenser will use up one of your diluted Thermias, and also start the boss battle. As soon as you can, take cover. The Exploiter Orb is coming. As soon as you can, take out the rocks she is clenching on with her spider feet. She will fall down, and here is the real time to destroy her. As soon as she is down, she will start summoning the little green arachnoids. These guys are quite nice to farm up if you're interested in lesser toroids, but let's continue with our fight. They also deal a lot of slash damage, as I said before, so you really need to watch out. The first step is easy. Destroy the vents. There is 4 of them on each side of the Exploiter Orb. Okay, for real now, I'm just going to stop calling her Exploiter Orb and just call her E from now on because I'm lazy. Okay, when you destroy one of the E's vents, she will move to the other side of Deck 12 and start shooting you. Her turrets do a lot of damage and you really need to watch out and move constantly. But if you look at the vents now, they will be frozen over. And you need to melt that ice. To melt the ice, we will need Thermia canisters, which are actually dispensed on each side of Deck 12. As far as I remember, there is 2 dispensers on the bottom floors on the sides towards the middle, and 2 dispensers on the upper floors on the balcony. The Thermia canisters will respawn, so in case you miss, it isn't that bad. Okay, back to the throwing the canister. Pick the canister up and go near E. Now you just need to yeet the canister and hope you hit her in the vent for bonus points. You don't have to hit her directly in the vent, but it does melt the whole ice cap, I guess, from the vent if you hit the actual vent. If you don't, just a half of it will go away. When you think you will hit the vent, press the middle mouse button and you will throw this. When you melt all the ice off the vents, they will actually start glowing a bit in white, so you need to destroy them. Then we go to the next step. She will move over the deck 12 and spawn some coolant arachnoids in the middle. Now you just need to kill those coolant arachnoids. They are not that hard to kill, but yeah, just kill them. And when you do, she will move forward again, and now it's the time to destroy another vent. The last one actually. When you destroy this one, she will move away and go outside again, and you have to go outside as well. To backtrack a bit, I know that this is quite hard if you're doing this the first time, so this might take you a little bit longer than usual, but for real, you will get better. I am soloing this easily in 20-25 minutes sometimes, so yeah, it is not that hard. When you come outside again through the cave, your patience will be tested, and also skills. You will be roaming around and blabbering nonsense as usual, and what you need to do is follow her and kill the coolant arachnoids that are refreshing her with their coolant. If you kill a arachnoid, a coolant canister will drop, which is the key to your success. The coolant canisters will drop only from the arachnoids that haven't actually shot their coolant at the exploiter orb. Now that you actually have the coolant you need, you will see that at some point E will start smashing the ground and thermia fractures will just appear out of nowhere. Use the coolant you have to close the thermia fractures and then throw that thermia at E. This will permanently increase the rate at which E overheats. If you shoot the canister in midair near E, the rate should be twice as fast than if you just throw it at her. So yeah, what you need to do is just kill the arachnoids, get the coolant canisters, make thermia, and then throw it at E, and that's pretty much it. When E overheats, you then need to jump at her, and there will be a cool animation of you destroying something from E, and then you just need to shoot at that hole that fire is being spewed out. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You need to repeat that 2 more times then, so 3 in total. When you destroy the head of E, she will just murmur a few words and then drop the loot. Now, this is important. As soon as you see the icon for loot, pick it up and run the hell away as far as you can, because a nuke is going on in the Vallis. Yeah, E explodes. But yeah, that is actually it. We're done with the boss fight, so now let's go and look for the resources and other stuff we can get. First is the parts for Warframe called Hildrin, an awesome Warframe with some unique mechanics, not having energy but using her shields instead. The second drop is the Lazulite Toroid, an extremely useful toroid. It gives you 12,000 standing for Vox Solaris, and it is used to craft Hildrin as well. 6 Lazulite toroids in total, and you just don't need them for anything else right now. Besides the toroids, you will also get a buttload of resources from mining and fishing in the Orb Vallis. This way of mining and fishing is true a lot more uncertain of what you can get, but Jesus, you get a lot of good stuff. And it is probably quicker than mining and fishing as well. There is 5 kinds of deb bonds, the common and the rare variety, the common ones being the training and shelter deb bonds, and the rarer ones being medical, advances, and familial deb bonds. First we'll go over where to get them, and then we'll look at why do we actually need them. So yeah, there is a couple of ways to get them. The first one are the bounties. Every bond drops on specific tier. Here is a quick list of which bond drops on which tier, so yeah. It is always the same with other rewards besides deb bonds being slightly changed by kind or drop chance. In all the bounties, the drop chance of dead bonds is capped with 20% max, with exception of tier 5 bounty being 25. These drop chances decrease with every stage to about 13%, so you're less likely to get deb bonds on the second stage of the bounty and even less on the third stage, so yeah, the first stage is the maximum. That is really all about the first grindier way, but let's go to the second one now. Ticker, the lovely guy on top of Fortuna, sells the deb bonds if you're willing to pay credits and resources to buy out war criminals. Most of the time you will only get the commoner deb bonds this way, but Sometimes you will also get the rarer ones, but in low amounts, so yeah. If you're a starter, I do not suggest you to buy them. Try to spend your credits on weapons and Warframes. They are a much better investment if you ask me. These two ways are actually the only two ways to get depth bonds before you rank up to rank 5 of Solaris United. After you are rank 5 with the SU, there is the third way, last way, the Prophet Taker, the big boss of Orb Valis. By starting the phase 4 of the bounty and destroying the Prophet Taker, you will get 3 medical depth bonds, 2 advances depth bonds, and 1 familial depth bond as the reward, plus other stuff, all of them being doubled if you have the double resource boosters, so yeah, 2 familial depth bonds, which is not a small amount. The use of depth bonds varies. One of them is ranking up with Solaris United, quite straightforward. Depending on the rank, you will need different bonds. 10 training bonds are used to guild your MOA companions at Legs, and 10 shelter bonds are needed to guild your kit guns at Root Zood. For real, you will need a lot of these if you want to complete every single thing. If you have more than enough depth bonds, you can also trade them in at Ticker for Solaris United standing, which is just great if you have more than enough of them, yeah. If there is a Valentine's event, Ticker will be selling stuff for depth bonds you have excess of, obviously Valentine related, such as wings, heart arrows, color palettes, all of them a good investment if you ask me. You can't go into depth in Warframe, so why not waste the depth bonds? But with this, I actually told you everything. The depth bonds are a peculiar resource to farm just because they are so random sometimes. I myself remember helping a friend get some familial depth bonds and we just couldn't get them from the bounties. It is insane. Now there is one more way which I didn't even mention before, which is completely unreliable finding depth bonds in the caves of Orb Valis. I got one once and I've been playing since the release of Fortuna, so yeah, beyond unreliable. Atmo, Gyromag and Repeller systems. Resources you will not need a lot of, but will need them nonetheless. All 3 of the systems have a use in weapons such as Splings, Glavacord and Exergis. All of them are fun if you ask me, and you also need some for Warframe Xaku, the broken Warframe. Besides that, you can also make amp parts with them or a Gravimag, which you need to carry around an Argon weapon in normal mission. The Arch guns in normal missions are much funner than the ones in Archwing, so yeah, try to get those Gravimags. First, let's look at all the ways to get the Repeller, Gyromag and Atmo systems. There is a few ways to get them, but there is also a requirement. First one, you need to be rank 5 with Solaris United, and you need to know Vox Solaris in the back room of Fortuna. To rank up with Vox Solaris, you will need all 3 kinds of systems depending on the rank you want to rank up, so yeah, you will waste most of the systems to rank up with the Vox Solaris first. Okay, now let's look at all of the options where to find the systems, and then we'll go in a little bit more detail. You will be first able to buy all the systems from Little Duck in the corner of the back room at the expense of quite some toroids, which I wouldn't do myself just because there is a lot of better things to waste toroids on if you ask me, so yeah, it's your choice. The other way you can do to get all 3 Gyromag, Atmo and Repeller systems are the heist bounties. They become available after getting to Vox Solaris. There is 4 phases of them. First 3 are quite easy, but the last one, the Exploiter Ore fight, is quite hard. The first 3 phases share almost the same drop table. They differ in some relics that are inside them and kinds of toroids and also some mods, but for real, they are pretty much the same. The phase 4 of the heist, however, the actual Prophet Taker fight, has a drop table that is the best by far if you ask me. I myself am farming only the 2nd stage and the 4th stage. They are either the quickest or have the best rewards, plus they will both get you a lot of toroids by the side, just because you will either need to eliminate a lot of enemies in the enrichment labs, or you will be able to get the toroids from Prophet Taker. For real, these are the only 2 ways to actually get the systems you want, the Atmo, Gyromag and the Repeller systems. These bounties are quite hard, so you need to be prepared for the fight. I would suggest radiation and viral damage on your weapons, but it is not required if you deal enough damage. If you're baiting in toroids, you are free to just buy all the systems you want from Lil Duck also. Again, I don't recommend it, but if you do have the toroids, why not waste them? Now let's go to the Gravimag itself. You can get it in 3 ways. First one is a guaranteed drop from phase 3 of the heist, but you only get it once, so that's on the first completion obviously, so yeah, it is just for the first Argon you want. The second way is by wasting 20 platinum on the Gravimag from the market, which actually isn't such a bad deal if you ask me. And the third way is by getting yourself a Gravimag blueprint from the dojo. For real, I do not think it is too expensive just because you will need 1 or maybe 2 in your whole gameplay of Warframe. But yeah, if you want to farm all of the Gyromags and all the Arch Guns, you're in for a full grind, dude. To use the Gravimag, you need to go to your arsenal and then use the last section. At the middle there should be an Arch Gun somewhere. If you want to put a Gravimag on it, you first need the Orokin Catalyst on it, which is definitely a huge drawback just because there is much better things to put potatoes on. If you do have it though, you can go to your actions at the bottom right corner and then choose Gravimag option. This will make the Arch Gun usable on land in normal missions. You also need to equip it in your gear the same way you would equip a scanner. This is the icon that shows the Arch Gun. So yeah, just go in the mission, open your gear and summon your Arch Gun and you have a brand new BFG. First we will go over the resources that are extremely easy to farm, and then we will continue to progressively harder resources to get. But yeah, let's start with the first 3 extremely common ones: Ganglions, Pustulites, and Lucent Terroglobes. Ganglions are little infested bushes that are found all over the place. Their deposit looks like this. By just destroying it you will get 4 or more from my experience. But yeah, just fly around and you'll find many of them. You can find Pustulite on the surface of Cambion Drift. They are usually hanging from infested structures. Their deposit looks like this. You just need to shoot them and they will fall on the ground. Usually they will give you about 3 Pustulite. And now the last of the 3 resources, the Lucent Terroglobes. You can usually find these around Requiem pillars, which look like this. You just need to get to them and look for deposits that look like this. You may also find these deposits in the isolation walls, but for real, they are not that good if you're just doing the bounties and stuff like that, so just loot on the surface, for real. Let's now go to the next 2 resources, Voam and Fast Residue. These 2 things are found in patches around the Cambion Drift. You can get Voam residue while Fast is active. The deposit looks like this, beautiful blue color. And you can get Fast residue while Voam is active. The deposit looks like this, orange. You will need these residues for fishing and exchanging resources with the father, but we'll go over this later. But now let's go see how to farm the residue. The easiest way to farm both of the residues is to get yourself an Archwing and fly around looking at the patches. When you can't find any more, return to the Necrolisc and go back outside. The residue will respawn and you just have to repeat the whole procedure again. Loot everything, back to Necrolisc, loot everything, it is easy. You can also farm the residue without the Archwing, but for real, just try to get one. It is a lot easier and quicker, so really, just try to get one. Now we will go to the land down under, the isolation vaults. First resources we will take a look at are found in the isolation vault bounties. You can find these at the Mother. There is a huge amount of these resources. The first ones we will take a look at are the Orokin Matrixes, which you can get from Necromechs you have to destroy. If you are playing a tier 1 Isovault bounty, you will get an Orokin Orientation Matrix from the Necromech you destroy. The tier 2 Isovault bounty Necromechs will give you Orokin Ballistics Matrixes, and the last tier 3 Isovault bounties will spawn 3 Necromechs, each giving you an Orokin Animus Matrix. You may use these matrices in the Necroloid Syndicate, which you can find at Necrolisc behind the wall if you're going in with the Operator. You can trade Orokin Matrixes with the Lloyd, 1k for the Orientation Matrix, 2.5k for the Ballistics Matrix, and a whole 5k for the Animus Matrix. You will need a standing with this guy for the Necromech parts, mods, and also Kitha Ayatan sculpture. That is it though for the matrices. Now let's go to the Necromech parts. For real, there is not a lot to talk about these Necromech parts. After you kill a Necromech of any bounty tier, you have a chance to get the parts. The drop rates of each part are on the screen right now. There is really nothing else to talk about here, so yeah, the drop rates are abysmal. The next few parts are Necromech weapons. You need to craft Cortage and Mora with, both extremely fun weapons to play with. The weapon parts are only found in the Isolation Vault bounties and the Arcana Vault bounties, and yeah, they have a very low percent drop chance, 3% per part, only from the last stage. So I suggest you to do all the side objective of every vault. That is the easiest way to get them. Scintillant, a resource that upon its release was extremely hard to get, not because it was so rare, but because it was so different. But right now, it is one of the easiest resources to get. You don't even have to kill one enemy, and there's very few requirements. You will need Scintillant for just a couple of things in amounts of 2 to 5. Those things are, for example, Warframe Xaku, Necromech parts, some weapons, and also kit gun parts. There's a few ways to get Scintillant, first one being the bounties of Cambion Drift. This way is extremely unreliable though. It can drop from the 3rd stage of tier 1 bounty with a bizarre 8% drop chance, and you can also get it from tier 2 bounties from about 18% drop chance on the 1st stage to 8% drop chance on the 2nd one and 0 on the 3rd. So yeah, completely unreliable. The 2nd and the 3rd way to get Scintillant are in the Isolation Vaults of Deimos. First one are the Isolation Vault bounties, where you need to fight a Necromech or 3 of them. Defeating the Necromech will sometimes yield a Scintillant, but it seems like no one knows the drop chance. This is another unreliable way of getting Scintillant. If you're going to kill Necromechs, your goal shouldn't be the Scintillant, but either the Iso Vault rewards at the end of the missions or different matrices. But now let's continue to the 3rd way, which is again unreliable but yields the most fruit, Flying Scintillant in the Iso Vaults. What I suggest you to do is start the Arcana Iso Vault bounty outside of the Necrolisc of any level and go down, then just jump around and look for the Scintillant. You do not have to complete the bounty, but just pick up the Scintillant and leave the Iso Vault, then restart the bounty and repeat. This way I got 5 Scintillant in 10 minutes, but I did have the double drop chance booster on, so I am not sure if this is reliable without it or not. If you do have it though, you do that. Sun tokens are exchanged at the Sun. For them you will need to capture animals at the Cambion Drift. Otak tokens are exchanged at Otak. For them you will need minerals and gems, which you can mine in the Cambion Drift. Daughter tokens are exchanged at the Daughter. For them you will need fish parts. Father tokens are exchanged at the Father. For them you will need numerous resources you can find in the Cambion Drift. Mother tokens can only be acquired through playing the Cambion Drift bounties. Higher the level, more you will get. In my opinion, they are the only tokens besides the Grandmother tokens you should exchange for standing. You will just get so many of them. And the last kind of token, the Grandmother token, which you can find at, you guessed it, the Grandmother. You can only get them by exchanging tokens from the other family members for them. They are used to buy stuff from the Grandma. For real, there is not much worth buying in there, but if you want it, just get them. I must say that there is also a way to exchange the resources for all kinds of tokens at the Grandmother in the Mend the Family tab. I myself don't really use it, but you may, it's nice to know. And now the last resource you will find, the Seriglass Shards. Resource you can buy from the Grandmother for 20 Grandmother tokens. You will only need 3 in total for 3 weapons, Quasas, Sepulchrum, yes, and Trumna. Very fun to play with, really. First, let's take a look at the resources you need to craft your Railjack, Cubic Diodes, and Carbids. You can get them in very low amount from the Eximus units at specific locations. Cubic Diodes drop from Eximus units in the Icy Planet tile set on Europa, and Carbids drop from Grineer Eximus units on Shipyard tile set, Ceres. You will also need a lot of these 2 resources, so yeah, let's continue to Railjack now, where you will get a ton, not just in amounts of 20. So, Railjack, first again, Cubic Diodes and Carbids, plus a new resource, Ticor Plates. These can be found all around the Railjack solar system in any mission. If you are trying to get a huge amount of all of them, your best bet is destroying ships and cruise ships. They yield insane amounts. You may also get a lot of them by boarding enemy cruise ships and capital ships and destroying crates. There is an insane amount to get there as well. Resources such as astrite, nullstones and titanium can be found by destroying crates, which come in many different ways. You can also get the previously mentioned resources, the cubic diodes, carbides, and Ticor plates there. You may find what I call rich asteroids, orange floating rocks in Grenier missions, and also minefields, little red containers. There is also radiation dump crate and other stuff floating around the area for real. Just try to shoot at anything you see, it will get you a lot of loot. That was in Grenier missions, but in Corpus missions the loot is mostly concentrated in two things: the big crates, which look like this, and also enemies. That is actually it about these resources. ISOS is a resource you will not need a lot of, but you still will. They're more common in Corpus-controlled Proximas, however, you will also get them in Grenier ones in smaller amounts. The best way to get them is by killing enemies and opening crates. Aucrux capacitators are found in mainly two things: destroyed cruise ships in Corpus Proximas, and also sometimes Grenier missions, the little satellite spinning thing. Try to get them in Corpus missions though, it is much more reliable, just destroy cruise ships. Gallus rods are resources found in Grenier Proximas, mostly by destroying enemies. There is really nothing else to say about this one. Destroy enemies, destroy cruise ships, loot crates. Yeah, that's actually it. Comms can be found in Grenier cruise ships in amounts from 1 to 2, but you also get them from other stuff such as satellites, just in lower amounts. So yeah, cruise ships it is again. And the last resource, the anomaly shards. They can only be found in Veil Proxima, even at specific nodes, which are beeping with a little red marker and change constantly, so don't miss it. This node adds an additional objective exploring a sentient anomaly. You need to board the ship and kill 20 sentients, and that's how you get one anomaly shard. The anomaly shards can be used to buy Captura scenes and the Tenebris Ephemera from Little Duck at Fortuna. So to sum it all up, Ticor plates, carbides, and cubic diodes are found in enemies and cruise ships. This also goes for astrite, nullstone, and titanium. They can be found in other crates around the map, and also sometimes enemies just in lower amounts. If you need ISOS and Acrux capacitators, go for enemies in the Corpus Proximas and also cruise ships, obviously. And if you need Gallus rods and comms, go for enemies in the Grenier Proxima. For the end, I also want to give you a little disclaimer, I guess. Don't try to farm enemies that are on the ships running around. They only drop resources from that planet and not the railjack ones. So yeah, it is just pointless to farm them. Dog Days are back, a rare event that happens only when Kiela the Thane goes to Funny Land caused by leaking fumes in her ship. The whole event is made of 4 missions which you can access at the star chart in the upper right corner, leftmost icon. There is different rewards that you may get: the Redeemer Abysso skin, which is rad, Hydroid's relay scene for your Captura, Hydroid Noggle statue to decorate your ship, plus an Orokin reactor to give your Warframe double mod slots, which is always amazing. Besides that, you can also get a hefty amount of credits, which, you know, it's also good if you need them. The whole event needs no preparation at all, you only need to start the mission and that's it. When you do start the mission, you will be equipped with a gun that squirts water and a floaty that does nothing but helps, since we know Warframes can swim. The main goal of the mission is to wet out as many executioners in the given amount of time, so get to work. The gun you have is what you will use to do that, so yeah, the only thing you need to do is aim at them and wet. At first it is quite hard since you need to lead the shots, but after a while it becomes quite easy, so don't panic if you don't start good. You will need to reload after every enemy you kill, almost, but if you want to do that, the only thing you need to do is press the middle mouse button a couple of times and that's it. If you don't know how much water you have in your gun, it is highlighted in the middle of the screen right under the cursor. For ammo, you just need to move over the little water fountains all over the map, which are replenished quite quickly. When the mission ends, you can now do the second one and then all the way to the 4th one to get all your rewards. And that's it. Omega Isotopes, quite easy to get resource, but only obtainable at the time of Balor Fomorian attack. So when this event starts, you will receive a Fomorian Disruptor blueprint, which you should be able to find in your foundry. When you check it out, you will need some Nano Spores, some Cryotic, and also some Omega Isotopes. You should already know where to get the Nano Spores and Cryotic, but Omega Isotopes are a bit of a different thing. You can only get them by playing on the planet the Fomorian is present at, so to check this out, you go to the star chart and look for the Balor Fomorian event in the upper right corner. There you will be able to see where the Fomorian is located, so the only thing you need to do now is go to that planet and play any mission you want to, but not Archwing, only ground missions. I myself recommend you to play missions like Survival, Defense or Interception because of the amount of enemies, but on Public because you will get a lot of isotopes very quickly, but you can also play Exterminates and stuff like that if playing solo. The Omega Isotopes will drop from enemies and also crates, so be sure to destroy as many as possible. You may also use Necros and his Desecrate ability and Kavas with the Charm mod to get more resources, and on top of that you can also use the Resource Drop Booster and Resource Double Booster just to get a bit more. And the last resource, Cryptographic Alu, can only be obtained from Corpus Archwing missions while the Razorback Armada is active. When it is active, you will get a little message and also the Razorback Cipher. The crafting requirements are not that bad. You need 3 Gallium, 1.5k Polymer Bundles, and 4 Cryptographic Alus plus some credits. So yeah, good luck farming the Archwing missions. That is it. Thank you for watching. I am very thankful for every single one of you. And have a nice day. Bye guys.